Chapter 1361. Count simply couldn't understand what was happening in front of him. He didn't understand why he, who existed as a consciousness, would be cut the moment he smelled the strange smell. And there was no warning at all. His consciousness had been split into two. Consciousness cut. Was it locked when he stepped into the train production workshop? Or did something penetrate Han Dong's consciousness space? Count couldn't understand and couldn't continue to think. His consciousness was fading, and he was losing the ability to continue thinking. After using the last of his strength to warn Han Dong, everything in front of him became dim. This was after Miss Hall's holy sword pierced through his heart, and Han Dong's raven god form annihilated his body. He was once again on the verge of death. But this time it seemed that he wasn't as lucky as before, and death had already arrived. Under the smiling tree, Count's consciousness was gradually turning into blood water. His expression was neither painful nor hateful, but rather relieved. In Count's eyes, he should have died the first time he was defeated. To be able to continue to live for so long. To be able to follow Han Dong to see different types of destiny worlds, to see new things, to contact, to communicate, or to kill creatures from other worlds that he had never seen before. To step into a higher realm, and a fight against many kings. This was something that Count didn't dare to imagine when he was still a lord. Thank you, Nicholas. This sentence couldn't be conveyed, and with the last trace of Count's consciousness, it drifted away together. Before dying, Count planned to turn his consciousness into the last blood water to water the talent tree. Perhaps it could increase Han Dong's chances of survival by 1%. Drip. The last head turned into blood water, and Count's eyes no longer existed. However, when the last drop of blood dripped down, it was accompanied by an item. Because Count was willing to become a mount, Han Dong had completely given the blood oath's master, Rogorian's blood skull, damaged, to Count. In fact, whether Count was willing to become a mount or not, Han Dong had already planned to completely give this thing to Count. Whether it was compatibility or usage, Count was the most suitable. The blood formed by consciousness didn't flow into the tree roots, as Count wanted, to become nourishment for the talent tree. Instead, it was attracted by the blood skull. It was sucked into the ugly, strange skull that didn't belong to this world, and was sucked into the twisted eye holes, protruding sharp mouth, and huge nostrils. For a moment, the whole skull emitted a blood-red light. Why can I still think after death? Count's consciousness that should have faded, and he could even think again. Some red dots appeared in the darkness before him, filling up the picture of a whole new world. When he opened his eyes again, he was no longer in Han Dong's consciousness. The Count was in an extremely terrifying world. The black ground was covered with dense blood vessels, and blood crystal rocks, ranging from a few meters to a few hundred meters, could be seen everywhere. At Sis, Blood Fiend Space, the name of the place automatically appeared in Count's mind. At this moment, in the boiling sky, some kind of giant was emerging. In the end, it was a terrifying human head that was 100 meters long. Its eyes were like blood bubbles that constantly expanded and contracted. God of Blood. Although it was the first time Count had seen it, he spontaneously said the other party's great title. When he wanted to kneel, he found that he couldn't because Count's was a floating blood ball in the air. Person of blood, I have already acknowledged your sincerity. Your body is destroyed, your soul is destroyed, and the end of death is about to befall you. However, this is also an opportunity for you. You can use this opportunity to get rid of the shackles. I will create a new blood's body for you. Are you willing to give up your otherworldly identity and join us? I'm willing. Count didn't hesitate at all. Ever since he understood this drawbacks, he scoffed at Blood God's methods. He began to use the land deed to establish connections with other hybrid demons, trying to get the other kings to accept him and get rid of the shackles. However, the Bloods had been deeply ingrained in him since he was young. It was even a part of Count and couldn't be removed. Now, when everything came to an end, it became his opportunity to change. Very good. Since you have Roghorn's skull, you'll replace Roghorn's as one of my spokespersons. If you need, I'm willing to use the essence of blood fiends to cut off your connection with your original world. From now on, you'll be reborn here and embark on a new journey. I still have things to do. There's still a guy who needs my help. Once I'm done there and return that guy's favor, I'll take the initiative to come here through the Black Tower and serve you. After all, you're connected to S01's complicated and troublesome world. I'll have to pay a great price to cut off the connection. Bathe in bloods, cast flesh, and rebirth. A huge amount of blood poured out from the neck of the god of blood's giant head. It washed, sank, and wrapped around Count's corresponding blood cell. A brand new body was slowly being constructed. The camera cut back to Han Dong. Before Count's arrival, he successfully sent out a warning. Han Dong's scalp instantly went numb, and his hair stood on end. To be able to do this, it was definitely not a mythical's, but a king's who had fused with the world's rules. He didn't expect that the world migration caused by the Herbal Incorporation would directly attract the attention of a king, and he didn't bring any subordinates. He chose to come alone in the form of stealth, which was the most troublesome type of stealth and attack. When Han Dong stepped into the train production workshop, he had already stepped into the king's domain. Everything within the domain, even the consciousness and soul wrapped in the physical body, would suffer the most direct slash. Escaping had become an extremely difficult option. Domain expansion. Han Dong immediately used the pharaohs given to him by the Prometheus node to open his own domain as much as possible. Even if he could tear a small hole in the king's domain, there was still a chance of survival. There was already a trace of black sand under his feet. It seemed that there was really a chance. At this moment, buzz, the blade flashed. Han Dong's consciousness immediately had an intuitive feeling of being cut. In his mind, he had even imagined the terrifying scene of his body being split into two and his limbs flying everywhere. However, it was different from Count's. Han Dong only had the feeling of being cut. His consciousness was still intact and hadn't been cut open. Then, he reached out to touch the other parts of his body. They were all normal and hadn't been killed. At the same time, the desert domain that symbolized the Egyptian civilization was successfully opened. It was about a meter wide, giving Han Dong a chance to breathe. I can't cut open your consciousness. An elegant female voice echoed in the workshop. When Han Dong heard this voice, swoosh, his eardrums and cochlear structures were cut open, and blood kept flowing out of his ear holes. In his field of vision, a king with a strange posture slowly walked out from the front of the train. Chapter 1362. The leaderless brother of the Fight Club. Wes Marrow, who helped Han Dong with his rehabilitation training, and the handsome CEO of Herbalin, Jack, whom he had just met not long ago. Even the leader of the Hell Knights, Malone, was a true king who had won the throne in an alternate world. Han Dong had had direct contact with all of them, and some of them even had a deep relationship with them. When he talked to this group of kings head-on, the word irresistible would be deeply ingrained in his mind. It was different from the gap between a mature body and an atavistic body, which was separated by a gate of truth. It was also different from the mythical scroll, which was separated by a further distance between an atavistic body and a mythical body. King. Not only did one need to reach the standard, but one also needed to compete with opponents of the same level for the king. One also needed to pass the king's test given by the corresponding world. It was extremely difficult. Even the 10 great primordial qualities, who were talented and invincible among the same level, could not guarantee that one could successfully become a king at the later stage of the mythical stage. Those who became kings were definitely peerless geniuses among billions. Just resisting the domain released by the other party consumed the energy in his brain rapidly. The consumption speed was far faster than when he fought against the Golden Saint. The prisoners in the brain prison had all connected their tentacles. In order to provide their energy to Han Dong, they assisted in the support of the domain. In the Void Laboratory, although Meridus's face was full of fear and her movements were very flustered, she still tried her best to provide spatial energy and began to build a void beacon in her body. In the workshop, the king, hidden in the dark, slowly walked out. His posture was revealed. The corresponding king's domain, as well as the corresponding king's throne, appeared. In a huge workshop, every half a meter, a samurai sword would float out of the water. It was not just the ground. Samurai swords appeared on the surrounding walls, the shelves placed in the workshop, the crane, and the train. These samurai swords were not completely formed by domains. They each had their own origins, and they came from the hands of swordsmen. Some swordsmen even came from different worlds. However, these samurai swords all had a common characteristic. The sins that their original owners had committed were engraved on the surface of the swords, and the number of innocent creatures they had killed was recorded in numbers. In a blink of an eye, it was as if there were tens of thousands of swordsmen using their lifetime's unique skills and waving the swords in their hands. Any individual covered by such a domain would be cut down no matter where they were. The damage received from physical attacks is increased, and it ignores armor to a certain extent, causing true damage. The degree of increased damage and armor penetration is determined by the individual's sins. At the same time, the individuals within the domain would constantly be subjected to Emperor Slayer's will slash. Those who were not of the same level would not be able to defend against will slash. Their consciousness would be directly destroyed, and they would die instantly. Even if they were both kings, they still had to constantly defend themselves on the consciousness level. In terms of killing enemies, it could be said to be extremely terrifying. In the meantime, a unique throne slowly rose from the ground along with the other party's body. A throne made of bones, sword-shaped tomb. The back of a chair was made of an indestructible dark gold spine riddled with cuts. 7 arm bones of different thicknesses were connected to the surface of the spine, spreading out to the left and right. At the same time, each arm held a famous sword. The size, style, and even the shape of the blade were all different. These 7 arms came from the 7 truly powerful enemies that Emperor Slayer had defeated during his growth. Now, as they became souls under the sword, their limbs and famous swords were made into Emperor Slayer's throne. The bottom of the throne, connected to the spine, was piled up with countless skulls, all of which came from the defeated who were beheaded. Is this the king corresponding to sin? It's the most troublesome attribute. Han Dong's vision did not linger on the domain, nor did it linger on the throne. Instead, he stared intently at the woman who walked out from the front of the train. There was no head, a long sword inserted from the neck. The more private parts of the body, joints, and palms were all wrapped in bandages. The body was in a state of being slashed and separated. For example, the slender waist that was cut open was about 5 centimeters apart from the top and bottom. It was maintained by the power of sin. The other parts that were cut open included the right thigh, right wrist, and left index finger. The meaning of these cut parts was unknown. It seemed that they were permanent wounds left by her in a duel with a strong opponent. They were of great significance to her and were preserved. It was also possible that she had sinned and needed to atone by cutting off her own body. Emperor Slayer, genuine lumen from the subsuper world, Sin Realm, ordered by the sinful infant to participate in this event. I can't cut open your consciousness. Emperor Slayer did not have a head, so he could only express his shock through his twisted posture and bent fingers. The moment Han Dong stepped into the workshop, she had already identified his level, open door. At the same time, she had also discovered Count, who was a companion consciousness through the domain. Emperor Slayer had only seen Han Dong's appearance in the video. There was no other information about his aura. Currently, when she saw Han Dong's dark disguise, she only treated him as a dark attribute hybrid demon. With a 2 major difference in level, Emperor Slayer only treated Han Dong, who was hiding in the dark and holding a black umbrella, as a scout in charge of patrolling the workshop. She chose to execute him instantly with Will Slash, who knew that although the companion consciousness in the other party's body was instantly killed, however, the other party's body was not injured. At the same time, it caused Emperor Slayer great confusion. Not being able to kill was one thing. The biggest problem was the feedback given during the consciousness slash. When the will slash pierced through the other party's body and directly hit the consciousness, It felt a layer of unknown gray matter wrapped around the consciousness. When Emperor Slayer wanted to cut open this mass of matter, the gray matter immediately formed a twisted, ancient arm engraved with unknown words. It firmly received the consciousness / using the method of catching a white blade with bare hands. This made Emperor Slayer very puzzled as she turned the blade inserted into her neck. In her world, it was impossible for a sinner at the open door level to block while slash. Similarly, it was impossible for a weakling at the open door level to open their own domain in her king-level domain. At this moment, the young man holding a black umbrella in front of her actually made Emperor Slayer slightly interested. The final result would be to kill, so there was no harm in communicating a little. The blade inserted into her neck trembled and once again emitted an elegant female voice. How did you do it? Your consciousness is already at the level of a mythical entity. Your main body's level is still at the open door level, and you haven't been at the open door level for long. When Han Dong heard the voice, he hurriedly covered his ears, afraid that his newly repaired cochlea would be cut into pieces again. However, this time, when he heard the woman's voice, he was completely fine. It seemed that the other party had the intention to talk. Because my consciousness is supported by the world node. This answer made Emperor Slayer even more puzzled. You are clearly an S01 hybrid demon. How do you know these things? To obtain a world node, you must be a destiny traveler. Hybrid demons are absolutely forbidden to enter the destiny space, and it is even more impossible for them to contact the Black Tower. Han Dong hurriedly took out his Black Tower employee ID and tried to continue communicating with the other party in the same way he dealt with Handsome Jack to buy more time. Secretly, he cooperated with Meritus to construct the void formation and quietly reached out to touch his shoulder socket, which was the location of the abyss hole left by Grimm. Who knew? Just as his fingers were about to touch his shoulder, buzz. The immortal arm has been cut off, the wound has been subjected to an irresistible rule, and is now separated from the main body. Chapter 1363. Place your bets. Place your bets. S01 on a planet at the broken border in an extremely luxurious casino building in the human vision. In front of a gambling table with a sign of Hyperion, it suddenly attracted the attention of many gamblers, including an old man of the same age as the world itself. He was emitting a strong aura of madness. On the gambling table, the most eye-catching thing was an exquisite chess piece with a knife on its neck and bandages wrapped around its body. It was better than other chess pieces in terms of size, delicacy, and color quality. Even the chess piece exuded a kind of slash aura. Other than that, there was also a half-gray, half-human chess piece symbolizing Han Dong, the abyss chess piece symbolizing Grimm, the mimicry chess piece symbolizing Miss Helen, and the Demps chess piece with 6 fingers. A large floor plan similar to a board game was fully unfolded on the gambling table. The different divisions of the board game represented the different floors and workshops of the Hyperion Company. There were many ways to place bets. 1. Place bets as a whole. For example, bet that Slayer King could annihilate Han Dong and the others, or that Han Dong and the others could use some means to escape. You could even place bets on how many people in Han Dong's team would die. 2. Place bets on individuals. If Han Dong's team eventually killed Slayer King, forced him to retreat, or escaped by special means, the outcome of the bet would be judged based on individual contributions. The gambling ratio was given by the mysterious bartender dressed as a bartender based on objective information. 3. King-level land deeds, lower, bet on Nicholas. The gambler in a gray vest still bet on Han Dong, without hesitation in such a situation. However, when this person placed his chips in front of Han Dong's chess piece, the bartender in charge of the gambling immediately gave a friendly reminder. Please be sure to follow the rules of the gambling house. You're prohibited from directly or indirectly affecting the game process in any way. Once discovered, the deposit will be confiscated and 200% of the processing fee will be deducted. Unexpectedly, the gray gambler responded with a smile. Don't worry. even if Nicholas is more important. If you die in this situation, it's not worth continuing to invest. At most, you can start again. I will naturally abide by the rules of the casino, not to mention that the boss is here. How can I violate the rules? While the old kings were immersed in gambling, Han Dong was facing the moment when he was closest to death since his rebirth. Pa! The withered, mummified arm fell to the ground. It was completely severed. The separation of his left arm caused Han Dong's ability to cast death-related spells to be greatly reduced, be it in terms of efficiency, magic level, or power. The domain created by the pharaohs was also greatly weakened. The domain began to become unstable. The small pyramids and sphinxes built within the domain were quickly collapsing, and the area covered by the domain was constantly shrinking. Just as the desert domain was about to be occupied by the saber domain. Swish! Swish! Towering gray tentacles drilled out of the sand, forcibly maintaining the effect of the domain. Staring at the left arm that had fallen to the ground, Han Dong's thoughts of dealing with it, preserving it, or resisting it were completely overturned. Now, there was only one question on his mind: how to survive. The blade vibrated, and an elegant female voice spread through the workshop. Apart from your head being a little strange, I can see your body clearly. Were you planning to touch this strange hole on your shoulder just now? It's a very strange and peculiar structure. It's obviously growing on your body, but it's bottomless. This should be a special communication method between the hybrid demons, right? Considering that you have too many characteristics that I don't know about, we'll end our conversation here. Wait. Just as Han Dong was about to say more, there was no way to dodge or see through it. Even though Han Dong had used his right arm to build a super dense proliferative shield in advance and used the holy sword to parry, it seemed to be no different from a piece of paper. Swoosh! It was an extremely pure slash. When the blade cut through Han Dong's body, there was no visible change in the first few seconds. The holy sword used to parry turned into a pool of blood. The piled-up meat shield was cut in the middle, and Han Dong's head fell to the ground along the smooth cut on his neck. He didn't die. The purpose of this slash was to separate Han Dong's head from his body. It was obvious that Emperor Slayer was very interested in Han Dong's head. First, it was because her slash couldn't take effect just now. It was even blocked by the gray matter in the head. Second, Emperor Slayer was also missing a head. She had a special obsession with her head. It seemed like she wanted to bring Han Dong's head back. Or maybe she was just curious and would cut open the head to see the internal structure later. Smack! When the head fell to the ground, the headless body also knelt down. Emperor Slayer was walking over step by step. Your head doesn't completely belong to you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to block my slash while you're in an open door state. If you're willing to tell me the secret, I can consider keeping your head for now. If you're not willing, I'll open your head and check it myself. Due to being beheaded, Han Dong's expression was extremely painful. It was as if he didn't hear Emperor Slayer's words. His eyes were bloodshot, and his eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. A few of his teeth were even crushed by him. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of Emperor Slayer's approaching footsteps was like the sound of the bell of death. A short knife, similar to a scalpel, was taken out by the sovereign. This knife was specially used for assassination and precision cutting. It was helpful for Emperor Slayer to check the structure of Han Dong's brain. The footsteps stopped. The short knife was already hanging above the head. Just as Emperor Slayer concluded that the head in front of him had no ability to resist, he slowly lowered the knife in his hand. Han Dong's painful expression immediately disappeared. The bloodshot in his eyes also quickly faded. Meritus, use all your spatial energy. A bright starlight burst out from his brain. The body kneeling beside him also showed starlight spots. Different from a situation of his left arm being cut off, Han Dong predicted that Emperor Slayer would be interested in the head and would most likely decapitate him. He had already separated the head from the body in advance. The slash just now didn't cause any damage. It was just a natural separation of the head from the body. At the same time, the body kneeling on the ground grabbed the undying arm that had been cut off. Void transfer. Even though the king's domain was greatly suppressed and space was completely sealed, the void passage could still be established normally. The void formation that had been built in his body was fully activated. At the same time, hundreds of tentacles grew from the back of his head, trying to bind Emperor Slayer in front of him. Whoosh! The gray tentacles that could easily kill enemies were all cut off in an instant. Crack, 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 the broken tentacles scattered on the ground, turning into dirty water and rising gray smoke. Han Dong's head, kneeling body, and right arm had all disappeared. He can even escape. How interesting. Chapter 1364. It was sticky, obstructive, and even felt like he was drilling through a quagmire. It was Han Dong's first time performing such a difficult void teleportation. If not for the spatial affinity and energy support provided by Meritus, void teleportation would not have been possible. The environmental impact of a king-level domain was beyond imagination. It was no longer as simple as reality interference. The Emperor Slayer could be given its own unique system of rules within the domain. This was the real power. Nicholas, I've drained all my energy. You have to survive. As soon as Mary finished speaking, she fainted in the void laboratory. This was the second time she had exhausted all her energy during the trip. Meritus herself was also in a state of absolute weakness, and it was unknown when she would wake up. Headquarters East, number 3071, Artificial Skeleton Laboratory. The 30th floor belongs to the Herbal and Company's middle area, and Grimm and the others are located on the upper floor of the Arms Research and Development Institute, which is dozens of floors away. Tick-tock, a slimy, mud-like teleportation portal was slowly torn open. The slime that symbolized the void continued to spill out, and when it landed on the ground, it quickly sublimated into a galaxy-like gas. His head, body, and severed left arm fell out. Intense pain. In order to distract the Emperor Slayer's attention, Han Dong released hundreds of tentacles in one go. Although it was only limited for a second, it was enough to complete the void teleportation. However, these tentacles connected to the central nervous system were cut off, and hundreds of them were cut off at the same time. The pain that went straight to the soul almost made Han Dong lose consciousness during the teleportation. Deep imitation, Togu clang, clang, clang. As the iron chains spread through his body and penetrated his flesh, the pain slowly weakened and turned into pleasure. Number 3071. It's only here. Normally, if I squeeze Mary's spatial energy dry, I can easily teleport more than 10 kilometers. The restriction of a king-level domain is too exaggerated. Hurry, I must go to the top floor to meet up with everyone. If I'm restricted again, I'll really die. Iron chains grew from his neck and quickly connected his head back to his body, just as Han Dong was about to escape at full speed. The feeling of being cut came again, causing the iron chains in Han Dong's body to tremble. Even if Han Dong assumed the form of a great demon, it would still be impossible for him to withstand the attack, not even once. Ripples spread out. Katanas began to appear on the ground of the laboratory. The domain of Emperor Slayer had already reached them. Meritus had already fainted, so Void Jump could not be used. Can you escape? No. The moment his brain came up with the answer, Han Dong immediately raised his remaining right arm, extended his index finger, and poked his shoulder socket. Whoosh. Her fingers were already on his shoulder. The despairing slash descended once again. Bam, 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 bam. The sound of a finger falling to the ground. When the index finger was cut off, the other fingers fell to the ground as well. What kind of ability is this? How can it break through my domain? The sound of Emperor slaying was transmitted through the vibrations of all the samurai swords in the domain. When Han Dong heard these sounds, his cochlea was damaged again. At this point, there was only one way left for Han Dong, God borrowing. There was no time to consider the consequences of God borrowing. If he hesitated for another 0.1 seconds, his remaining right arm would be completely cut off. Different tentacles began to appear in Han Dong's eyes, mouth, and nostrils. A completely different gray aura was constantly overflowing from his pores. Suddenly, a strange feeling came over him. Whoosh! Blood splattered. It was not cut off. Instead, a blood-stained finger grew out of the wound. This change put a temporary halt to the borrowing of the spirit. If one observed carefully, they would find that the current finger regeneration was completely different from the previous regeneration through blood threads. First, a baby's finger was born, and then it quickly matured. It was very strange. Han Dong could not understand. Every slash given by Emperor Slayer touched the level of rules. It could even completely cut off the connection between the mortal's arm and Han Dong. Logically speaking, the cut-off finger could not be recovered. There was no time to think because the next slash was about to come. The new finger was inserted into his shoulder socket. It was almost tearing his throat and shattering his lungs. He shouted, "Green!" The moment the voice was shouted, a vertical slash was already coming in the direct line of sight of the demon eye. The slash was given by Emperor Slayer himself. Even all the samurai swords in the field trembled violently, fearing this slash. This slash would definitely tear the body, cut the soul, and destroy the consciousness. Creak, creak, creak. A strange sound came from the abyss. In desperation, a body in an extremely twisted posture squeezed out from his shoulder socket. "I'm coming, Nicholas." He pulled out a long black sword that was sizzling from his earhole. When he clenched the hilt, frantically squirming tentacles grew out from his arm, swinging at a high frequency in the air, and he threw it out with all his strength. At this moment, time paused for a very short time, and the space was completely broken like a mirror. The visual lens pulled out the company from the laboratory and looked at the Herbal and Company from an oblique perspective. Buzz! With a flash of a fan, the blade passed through the middle of the company. With top-grade construction materials and high-end construction technology, half of the existing support pillars were cut off. The entire company felt as if it was about to be cut in half. This slash directly triggered the Herbal and Company's special defense system. Rumble. Layers of alloy steel plates set up on the outer ground rose from the ground. As a support and outer barrier, they wrapped and sealed the company layer by layer. A supermagnetic field maintained by pyrolite also enveloped the company. In the current state, even if the company was directly hit by nuclear energy, there wouldn't be too much of a problem. Before the energy was exhausted, it was indestructible. Artificial Skeleton Laboratory, Emperor Slayer himself had already appeared in the center, holding one of the famous swords taken by the throne in his hand. He tilted his head slightly, and once again could not understand what was happening in front of him. The slash that she had personally slashed out was actually blocked by another young man who was at the opening of the door. "Wow, it hurts. What a strong power, as expected of the king. Ha ha, there's actually such a sense of oppression, making my spine tremble. It's too cool." The missile that was used to fight was inserted into the ground, and there was a 5-centimeter deep mark on the surface of the blade. Drops of pitch-black blood were constantly dripping along the blade. What was even more terrifying was Green's side. In order to block this slash, the web between his thumb and index finger was completely torn. The torn opening even went all the way to his elbow. A strip of flesh with his thumb was swaying in the air. Even so, Grim turned to look at Han Dong behind him with an excited and gentle expression. "Nicholas, leave the rest to us. I believe you can come up with a way to deal with the King stage in a short time." Chapter 1365. Grim used the word "we" instead of "I" in his speech. Obviously, when facing the king, even a mad blade like Grim had some concerns. He blocked the attack alone because he did not have enough time. When facing the king, he would definitely summon the mythical being from the core of chaos. Such a mythical being with top-notch bloodline and attributes was infinitely close to the king. It was definitely possible to stall for time. It was impossible to defeat it. No matter how good the bloodline was, no matter how special the body was, the mythical being still lacked this kind of thing. It was impossible to defeat the real king. Just as Grim said, he could stall for time. Han Dong had to use this time to think of another way. Otherwise, they would still not be able to escape death. Hang in there, Grim. I'll find a way in a short time. There was no hesitation. Han Dong bit the immortal arm and turned to leave the laboratory. While he was running to the top floor, Han Dong also used a part of his attention to pay attention to the new finger on his right hand. It was the finger that had disregarded the rules and restrictions given by Emperor Slayer at the critical moment and was reborn through a special method. This kind of instantaneous regeneration of a baby's finger was 30% more efficient than before. Could it be that when death approached, some kind of potential was completely stimulated, allowing me to break through the rules and restrictions in an instant? Han Dong asked in his heart. A very strange smell of fresh blood spread in the air. Unlike any blood that Han Dong had ever come into contact with, this smell was quite fresh. It could even be said that it completely wiped out the fishy smell, and the viscosity was reduced to the lowest. It was sweet, refreshing, and retained the most original taste of life. At the same time, in the corresponding space of consciousness of the talent tree, drip, 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 a blood bead rain fell from the sky, dyeing everything including the talent tree and the surrounding land red. Some blood even seeped into the trunk and fell into the abyss of truth. When the heavy rain stopped, the blood beads that fell before began to slowly gather toward the talent tree. At the same time, they also absorbed all the red fruits growing on the branches and finally formed a kind of breeding organ, hanging on the thickest branches. Between the translucent organ membrane, blood vessels that could be seen with the naked eye were connected to a new body. From an embryo to a baby, in rapid growth in a short period of time, soft black hair, a big red mouth that split to the earlobe, as well as the cone-shaped eye protection that accompanied it. The entire process of growing from a baby to a middle-aged man took less than 3 seconds. Whoosh! The bottom cracked. As the amniotic fluid flowed out, the embryo also slid out. The umbilical cord structure connected to the individual's abdomen was sucked into the adult's body like a fat intestine, and it was filled with nutrients. Count had returned. Although his appearance hadn't changed much, his essence had changed. Now, the blood of the nether god that flowed through Count's body and constructed his organs and bones was from the superworld, Dawn of Terror. The part related to the blood brew had been completely discarded, but the hybrid demon trait was retained. The current Count could be said to be the perfect combination of a blood descendant and a nether god. Count, you! Han Dong, who was running towards the upper level, could not believe what had happened in the space of consciousness. After all, he had already felt that Count's consciousness had been destroyed, and the connection between their consciousnesses had been completely severed. It was just that he did not have the time to pay his respects. At the same time, Han Dong also understood the root cause of the self-healing finger. Count was also quite surprised. Nicholas, you ran away? Grim is helping to block the Emperor's Slayer, but he won't be able to hold on for long. I have to immediately go to the highest level to meet with Goldie. To deal with a king-level existence, I have to make good use of Herbalin. The area of influence from the Emperor Slayer's territory is really wide, but it's still limited here. Space transfer consumes too much energy, and the established passage is also very likely to be cut open, and there's a danger of being involved in the space crack. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a soft, squirming movement from his right arm. This time, there was no need for Han Dong to give orders. Count volunteered to become a mount, and separated from his right arm in the form of a brand new blood dog. Compared to the previous disorderly arrangement of teeth, they were now neatly arranged. The tentacles that made up the dog's body were also arranged in a very regular way. The blood flowing in the blood vessels was the purest and most original nether blood, which brought about an unprecedented strong power. A tuft of black dog's hair floated on his back. Carrying Han Dong's body, it turned into a red light faster than the speed of sound and rushed to the top level. At the top hall, it collided with Demps, who had a grim expression. Grim's sudden disappearance and Herbalin's activation of the special defense measures indicated that a terrifying invasion had occurred below. Dimps estimated that there were probably many mythical entities coming. But Han Dong's message was, "The king level is here. Dimps, hurry up and come with me to the core control room. We have to come up with a response plan. Otherwise, everything we've done will be in vain, and there's a high probability that we'll die here. King level." While Dimps was shocked, he looked at the arm in Han Dong's mouth. "Nicholas, your arm? Let's not talk about that first. Come with me." When Dimps sat on the blood dog, Han Dong followed up with a question. "Where's Miss Helen? The two of you should have a consciousness connection, right? Let her come with us, otherwise, she may be in danger alone." Helen also went to help when Grimm disappeared. It's okay. Helen's special ability came in handy. There are still forces led by mythical entities hidden in her dream. With Grimm, we should be able to delay for a longer time. Well, that's why I chose Miss Helen to go with me. I hope they can hold on a little longer. Dimps was shocked. I really can't understand why the other party would send a king to deal with a non-main storyline event. And there's not much time left before the energy of the London title deed is exhausted. The confrontation in Pandora maintains the balance to a certain extent. The number of kings should be equal. The kings are the root of the victory of this battle. Acting alone like this requires taking a huge risk. If the one controlling Herbalin was not us, but the great demon captain, the situation would be completely different. The other party really dared to gamble. Since things have already happened, we can only find a way to solve it. As you said, Dimps, the king is the biggest chip to win the London game. Since the other party's king was exposed first, we have to seize the opportunity. Not being able to kill me in the first place is their biggest mistake. Herbalin was once the leading company in Pandora and even had a period of dictatorship. Behind it was the handsome Jack, who was also a king. The company must have special facilities for the same kind of king tier. Even if the relevant facilities have stopped operating because of a lost world, I have enough energy to restart the equipment. Purple light flickered, and pieces of rhenium gold appeared on the surface of his right arm. Chapter 1366. Boom! Blood Dog, in the state of sprinting, smashed open the door of the control room. Han Dong was about to instruct the robot Goldie to do the relevant operations, but the scene in front of him made Han Dong swallow his words. Goldie, with the authority of chief engineer, was now integrated into the control room. In the back of the box-shaped body, a main cable as thick as an arm was inserted. Dozens of mechanical arms from the control room were editing extremely complex commands on the main interface. As soon as Goldie saw Nicholas, the camera on Goldie's body immediately turned, and a cry of joy came from the speaker. "Boo-hoo! Boss, you're okay." The destruction on the 30th floor, just once, made the company enter a special state of alert. The danger assessment has reached the level of king level. Currently, I'm searching for the countermeasures left by the handsome Jack in the company. Did you find it? Well, Herbalong was once targeted by many powerful forces because of its dictatorship. The company spent a lot of money to create 3 special facilities for King. One is an attack device, and the other 2 are restricted devices. There are 3 more. Can they all be used? The attack device, Proton Railgun, is an external device. The minimum attack range is the nearest planetary orbit. It can instantly annihilate objects at the level of a satellite. It can't be used inside the company. The restricted device, Eye of the Storm, is also an external device. It can't be used on targets inside the company. After all, Herbalong had Jack in charge before, so it was basically impossible for a force to quietly invade the company. Just in case, only a restricted device was left in the company. However, this device is not as good as the above 2 devices in terms of effect and power. Because it will be used inside the company, there are many restrictions. It must be ensured that the target is in the effective area. If the target is a king level, it must be in the main area covered by the device. In addition, to maintain the device for a long time, it must be continuously supplied with high-efficiency fuel. There is no problem with the energy supply. Goldie, give me all the details of this device. Okay, Han Dong engraved all the useful information into his brain within a minute and frowned. Just as Goldie said, the conditions for using it were too harsh. If he wanted to use it on Emperor Slayer, the prerequisite was to lead the other party to a restricted area, which was even more secretive than the Organic Research Institute. It would easily arouse suspicion, not to mention whether Emperor Slayer himself would be suspicious. Traction was a big problem. Grimm and Helen, together with the corresponding mythical entity behind them, it was already good enough that they could stall for time. If they wanted to draw it, they would have to add more chips. The key to success lies in how much attention Emperor Slayer will place on us. The simplest way was to hurt her. Being hurt by a junior like me, who is 2 levels lower than you, will arouse a great sense of hatred in your self-esteem. Your attention will be completely biased towards me. To a certain extent, you will neglect your rationality, which will greatly increase the success rate of the lure. Injuring a king. Nicholas, are you not afraid of death? You just come into contact with King, so you should know how terrifying he is. It's because I've come into contact with it that I have such thoughts. With the combination of my body's splicing ability and the new blood power given by Count, as long as I can control the time axis properly, I will be able to enter the attack range smoothly. What next? As for how to injure the other party, the king's body was already independent of the world in terms of laws. If he wanted to hurt a king, he had to have the means to break through the rules of the world. Ordinary mythical means are not enough. It has to be an extreme means of attack. Do you have any? In the face of Dempsey's spiritual interrogation, Han Dong nodded without changing his expression. Yes, but I need you, Demps, to do something. Because I'm not sure if I can last until the end. I need you, Demps, to help me. Phew. Okay. Demps could see the determination in Han Dong's eyes and a hidden madness. It was this madness that drove Han Dong to carry out a plan that was close to certain death. Han Dong immediately found a large amount of meat materials. He ate like crazy while using the characteristics of his right arm to quickly produce high-purity rhenium gold until there was enough of the device to test and activate. At the same time, Demps came to Han Dong's side and examined the wound on his left arm. He used the Rubik's Cube given by his mother to examine the wound carefully and tried to drill the 6th finger into the wound. A kind of wound had been imprinted in the Rubik's Cube. It was an extremely complicated seal of laws. Nicholas, don't move. I'll try to help you reattach your left arm. Can it work? Your opponent should be a kind of king who is inclined to extreme attack. The rules are not particularly complicated. Moreover, this sword is not a full-strength slash. It's quite casual. 10 minutes, 5 minutes should be enough. Almost there. I can only hope that Grimm and the others can hold on. While Han Dong was making the relevant preparations, an extremely stressful battle had broken out in the middle layer. Although Grimm's body carried a terrifying, crazy army, the army's maximum limit was only in the mythical category. Due to the rules of the London game, only one mythical entity was allowed in the force brought by the Prime. The rest were atavistic entities. Facing an Emperor Slayer, atavistic entities must be killed instantly once they appeared. It was meaningless. The only one who could help was a mythical entity from the center of chaos, the crazy existence that directly suppressed the great dragon in the abyss. Artificial Skeleton Laboratory, Grimm was in a half-kneeling position in the corner. Miss Lyle's body was full of slash marks. There were even some tears in her eyes that could be seen through her fingernails. However, Grimm's current situation was still considered safe. In front of him stood a security captain of the crazy banquet. He was ordered to assist Grimm in participating in the London game. Of course, his main duty was to ensure Grimm's absolute safety. He was also a Lord Insect that looked very safe. His race was the Shigai insect. Lord Insect, Geta Lucia's whole body was covered with a kind of black, crystal-like shell composed of small dodecahedrons. He could be said to be the toughest existence among the crazy banquet as security personnel. 8 multi-segmented arms with a shield sheath and sharp claw structure. His chin was missing. A long tongue was attached to the gap of his chin and hung straight to the ground. The tongue was attached with hundreds of millions of tentacles that could clearly sense the surrounding situation through the vibration of the ground. At the same time, the tongue was full of eyeballs to further enhance the dynamic vision. The above was only his humanoid form. His real body could not be contained in a laboratory. The area around the Lord Insect would constantly be surrounded by black beetles, gnawing at the nearby samurai swords. This kind of mythical territory that could affect reality could radiate about 2 meters away. Uncle Insect, can you really do it? This woman's offensive strength is higher than many of the lower Wangdu. Haha, this is really exciting. It's difficult. If I can't hold on, Grim, you have to leave. Just as the slash was about to hit, a burst of floral fragrance spread in the air, forcing the Emperor Slayer to temporarily stop what he was doing. Creak, creak, creak. Disgusting tentacles bloomed on the ceiling like flowers. Following that, a woman with a wreath of tentacles and a white veil on her body descended into the laboratory. There was a conspicuous moon mark imprinted on her shoulder. The territory overlapped. The area where the black beetles were crawling out had a crater structure similar to the surface of the moon. The overlapped mythical territory covered a radius of 8 meters. The Lord Insect stared at the arrival of the woman, and his tense body relaxed. Moon Lady Agatha, the legendary Luna Beast, one of the rare elites in the Dreamlands. Now, I have some confidence. The Lord Insect stared at his ally. His tongue that was hanging on the ground started to move in circles, and a kind of madness spread out like ripples. Chapter 1367. From the depths of the Dreamlands, a long-term resident of the witch's home, participating in a London game as an assistant of the 6th Prime, Moon Maiden Agatha. From the core of chaos, the security captain of the Mad Banquet, participating in a London game as Grimm's bodyguard, Insect Lord Gata Alucia. Both of them had reached the late stage of mythical. Their corresponding mythical grades were also rare and precious. In the hybrid demon world, they competed for the rare right to the throne through their own strength and contributions to the world. This competition had been going on for hundreds of years. Now, it was one of the rare times when the two of them worked together. Gata looked at the woman who descended from the top, with her head blooming like a chrysanthemum through his eyes that were full of tongues. He whispered, "Agatha, your condition seems to be better than before, and your form is more stable. You must have used the method of dream possession on the current prime. Little girl's body should be very useful, right?" Agatha had no intention of chatting with Gata here. She used a method called dream descent to directly possess Helen, the 6th origin, and her condition was indeed better than usual. She was more proficient in both the control of tentacles and the control of dreams, and she even gained an additional ability. But when she arrived here, she immediately felt like she was about to be killed and was close to death. She could not shake it off no matter how hard she tried. As the hybrid demons were rejected by the Gate of Destiny, they could not contact other worlds through the Black Tower. Agatha, like most of the other hybrid demons, had never left her own world. This was the first time she came into contact with a king from another world. Looking at the woman who had a knife in her neck and many parts of her body that were cut open or wrapped in bandages, Agatha felt very uncomfortable. He's more aggressive and can be said to be the ultimate aggressive king of the foreign world. Although her level is lower, if she was compared to the lower kings, she would definitely be ranked in the middle. Although Gata and I have completed our mythical grades and are of high quality, if we want to compare with such an existence, the difference can't be made up with any external items. The chances of winning are extremely low or even non-existent. Thinking of this, Agatha immediately contacted Helen, who was possessed by her. In terms of importance, Helen was more important than her. Part of her job was to fight for benefits in the London game, and another part was to ensure Helen's safety. "Helen, once I determine that you will die, I will use all my power to send you away from this place. I believe that Gata will make the same choice and send Grim to a safe location. When the time comes, you must escape back to London with Green." "Teacher Agatha, Try to hold on a little longer. Maybe there will be a way. If there's another origin substance here and a mythical body, there might be a way. Could it be that you're placing your hopes on these two fellows who belong to the human side? In the face of such a king, surviving is already their limit. Unlike Grimm's position in the realm of madness, although Helen was a prime substance, she could not give orders to a mythical entity. The communication with Helen was temporarily over. Hidden Moon, Moon Lady Agatha combined the mythological system and relied on her domain to execute a unique move. The effect was that the moon mirror in Dreamlands could reflect Agatha's true image into reality, and at the same time, her ability could affect reality as well. It was an almost invincible move. However, the effect of the Hidden Moon's ability would be weakened, especially the attack ability. G'da, I will use the Secret Moon spell and Dream Whispers to assist and enhance you. We have worked together before, so I don't need to waste time. Ha ha ha. I haven't experienced the blessing of the Luna Beast for a long time. Come on, let me kill to my heart's content. G'da wagged his tongue and ate insect limbs, looking extremely excited. At this moment, buzz, the slash that could not be seen had already passed through Agatha's body. The wall made of high-density alloy was slashed into 8 parts. The dark side of the moon, where Agatha's true body was located, also had a slash mark. She was so shocked that she took a small step back. The Emperor Slayer expressed his surprise by deflecting the blade at his neck. It was the first time she had seen such a high-level concealment state. At the same time, the Emperor Slayer also confirmed a very important thing. The masterminds who secretly took over Herbalin and caused the world's migration were the two in front of her. There was no king's existence. What a strange ability to be able to ignore my normal slash. It seems that you two are the strongest forces secretly controlling the company. It's great that there are no kings. Both of you are rare late-stage mythical creatures, and your abilities are also relatively rare. You two should be important forces of the Mutant Demon Cube. If I can kill you here, not only will it greatly weaken the overall combat power of the mutant demons, but it will also destroy the plan that is being carried out in Herbalin. As the representative of the sinful realm, I will fight for more fate rewards. With the perfect opportunity in front of her, the Emperor's Slayer no longer held back. Floating in the experimental area, the samurai sword that symbolized the territory no longer vibrated, and all of them were retracted into the ground. Territory retraction. This method of expanding the territory was a very basic method for the Emperor's Slayer. It was used to target low-level individuals and could instantly kill groups of weaklings through consciousness slashes. Currently, there was no need for this. As the territory was retracted, the Emperor Slayer's momentum was also increasing. An extremely deadly feeling was born in the two mythical creatures in Grimm's body. When the territory was completely retracted, even the throne had completely disappeared. One heart, putting everything aside, she focused on the simplest way of killing. She no longer used the famed sword that was hung on the throne and obtained from the 7 powerful individuals. Instead, she held the sword that had not been unsheathed for a long time. Slap! The sword in the Emperor Slayer's hand was the strange sword that was inserted into her neck to replace her head. Sinful threads flowed between the blade. The word authentic slowly appeared at the bottom of the blade. She pulled out the sword. The whole process was relatively slow, as if the sword that was inserted into the neck had not been unsheathed for a long time, or the process of pulling out the sword meant that the Emperor Slayer's form would change and could not be completed in an instant. Good chance. Glancing at the Emperor Slayer, who was slowly pulling out the sword, G'da picked up his tentacle-covered claws and was about to charge forward. Unexpectedly, a gentle stream of air pushed G'da back. Agatha warned sternly, "Don't go. You will die. Can't you see with your bug eyes?" With Agatha's reminder, within a 5-meter radius of the Emperor Slayer, there would be rapid slashes randomly appearing hundreds of times per second. Those who did not have enough defense would be instantly killed. I can see it, but my shell should be able to block it. Don't rush. I'll cast the Moon Blessing on you now. It's too risky to go over directly. Okay. A glowing moon mark appeared on the surface of G'da's insect shell. At the same time, a large number of tentacles appeared to reinforce the shell. This feeling, it's even stronger than before. I'm going. Gada, who had received an overall buff, had a surge of confidence. He ignored the random spatial slashes. Ding, ding, ding. He took all the slashes head-on and approached the attack range. The exaggerated and terrifying mythical insect claw twisted and spiraled into a sharp tentacle, piercing out with a crazy aura. The moment he was about to succeed, there was still a long section of the blade, but it was quickly pulled out by Emperor slaying. Buzz. Space was torn apart. The Herbalin Company, which was in a state of special alert and reinforced by multiple layers of outer walls, was directly cut in half at the waist. Chapter 1368. Boom! At this moment, everyone within 100 miles could feel a flash of space cutting. All living creatures within a radius of 10 miles felt as if they were about to be cut down. In the casino, on the gambling table with the Herbalin label, there was a chess piece marked with Insect Lord Geta. Cracks appeared on the surface of the chess piece, and it would crack completely with just a little more touch. This scene caused some of the gamblers' eyes to flash with discomfort. Of course, they were not uncomfortable with the situation of the Insect Lord, but they were worried that they would lose money because of it. That was all. The middle management of the company was completely cut off. When the building was about to collapse, a protective magnetic field shrouded the entire company and barely stabilized it. Goldie, who was monitoring the situation in the company, was also shocked. It did not expect the intruder to have such a powerful attack ability. However, it still carried out the order given by Han Dong and was testing the restricted equipment hidden underground to ensure that the equipment could function normally when the target was lured down. Dimps, who was also here, was also sweating. As for Han Dong, who was supposed to be here, he had already repaired his left arm and left 10 seconds ago. Dimps muttered, "Something must have gone wrong with that slash just now." Unfortunately, we encountered a king who distributes all his talents to attack. The death rate of a head-on confrontation is too high. If the plan does not succeed, we will all be buried here. Dimps, who had always been calm, also became a little anxious at this time. He had been thinking about the instructions given by Han Dong. Just as Dimps made a decision, he crushed the monolithic bronze mirror and reached out to fix the hair hanging in front of his eyes. If I die, I die. Anyway, I have Nicholas to die with me. It's not a loss at all. The Rubik's Cube, given by his mother, floated in the palm of his hand. He took the built-in elevator to the secret bottom of the company. Main battlefield. Number 3071 Artificial Skeleton Laboratory. The rhythm suddenly changed. Insect Lord Geta Alucia was completely misled by the rhythm led by Emperor Slayer. He did not expect that the moment he broke through the blade barrier and entered the attack range, Emperor Slayer suddenly changed the rhythm and completed the sword draw. In the face of such an unexpected situation, Geta did not attack or defend. Instead, he made an important decision. At the cost of burning his myth, he erupted with incredible strength and hardness. He used his 8 arms to grab the Emperor Slayer's origin blade at the same time. The moment he grabbed the blade, he used all his strength to lift the blade. The famed blade that was supposed to slash out horizontally was forcefully raised by Geta to an upward angle of 15 degrees and slashed out diagonally. The purpose of this was simple. Raising the angle, he let this slash avoid Mad Devil Green, fulfilling his duty as a bodyguard. Ha! Something fell to the ground. It was the Insect Lord, Geta Alucia, who possessed the extremely rare, regular tetrahedron insect shell structure, the crazy hard shell, the cornerstone of the insect swarm, and the title of Insect Lord. His upper body was completely cut off and fell right in front of Grim. This slash did not only cut off the venerable insect's physical body, but also the venerable insect's spirit body and essence. Turbid body fluids started to seep out. A large number of tentacles fell to the ground like crawling insects. After struggling for a while, they all died. The carapace of the regular dodecahedron structure was also disintegrating. The once indestructible carapace of the carapace was now scattered in granules. Even so, the venerable insect still looked at Grim with a crazed expression and said in a subordinate tone, "Young master, I may be able to hold on for a while, but not for long. Agatha's moon-hide ability can take you away. Hurry up and leave." Listening to his last words, Yi Zichen Grim did not have any emotions. He did not even want to listen to the venerable insect's meaning. Instead, he looked at the venerable insect with a puzzled expression. "Why should I leave? Uncle Insect's wonderful performance just now has brought the atmosphere of the party to its climax. How can I leave at such a critical moment? Of course, it's also possible for me to take over. This requires Uncle Insect to sacrifice a little. You should know what I mean, right?" After being asked by Grim, the venerable insect immediately showed an excited and perverted smile. The tongue hanging from the eyeballs also started to sway crazily. As expected of the young master, such crazy purity is something that I can never achieve in my lifetime. Young master, you will definitely be able to reach the same height as my master in the future and create a new crazy kingdom. I look forward to that day. The venerable insect removed all of its defenses, opened its arms, and relaxed its body. Then, something that no one could understand happened. As an ally, the Moon Maiden Agatha was shocked. Even the One Heart, slaying Emperor, temporarily stopped attacking because of the scene in front of her. Cluck, 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 cluck. Grim exposed his black, fingernail-like sharp teeth and crazily gnawed on the venerable insect's body. With every bite, he tore off a piece of fresh and juicy insect meat. Whether it was sadness or excitement, Grim's body would tremble crazily every time he swallowed, as if he was enjoying a crazy insect feast. In a crazy banquet at the bottom of the abyss. To be able to be eaten by a supreme existence like Grim as a delicacy was in itself an honor, and also a rare opportunity. The consciousness of the food that was eaten would be preserved in Grim's abyss. When Grim returned to the core of chaos, his consciousness would be sucked into the core area and undergo a unique, crazy reincarnation. When he was reborn, he would have a purer bloodline and could go further in the future. Burp. After finishing the meal, a loud burp came out from Grim's throat, and he could even smell the strong smell of insect juice. In an instant, Grim's breath underwent a drastic change, and the giant shadow of the venerable insect's body appeared behind him. Small holes all over his body flowed out, a kind of 12-sided granular substance, forming a layer of regular insect shell on the surface of his body. At the same time, combined with the characteristics of the abyss, it seemed to be stronger than the venerable insect's shell. Swoosh! Half of a giant shield grew from the sides of his left and right arms, and the accumulation of white granules on the surface formed a pattern that only the crazy nobles could understand, an ancient pattern that represented the primordial chaos. Grim only needed to close his arms to achieve the combination of the giant shields, forming an absolute defense. Grim opened his arms and sighed. The true Abyss Devourer that Dad asked me to learn is really useful, but it's a little taxing on the hybrid demons. By devouring mythical creatures, I can forcibly raise myself to the level of the Devourer and also obtain all of its characteristics, and continue until my energy is depleted. This move was originally planned to be left for the final battle, to take the enemy by surprise. I didn't expect a regent level to find me in advance, and a very special one at that. Then, Grim looked at the Moon Lady and said in a tone of absolute command, "Aunt Agatha, please give me the most comprehensive and profound enhancement. If I feel that you haven't used your full strength after the London incident is over, I will lead a crazy army to break through the Dreamlands and brainwash all the females in the witch's home, and turn them into the lowest level of birth slaves." Yes, she dared not disobey, and she had no choice. Agatha no longer used her moon form, and directly attached herself to Grim's body, using a crescent-shaped flower to attach to the surface of his body. Ha, that's more like it. The legendary Luna Beast is really interesting. Grim laughed maniacally as he raised his sword and charged toward the Emperor's Slayer, not caring about how terrifying his opponent's attack was. However, while Grim was running, a sense of the abyss was produced in his body, and this made Grim smile, and his tongue licked around his lips. "Nicholas, you're finally here." Chapter 1369. 10 minutes ago. Main point of view. Han Dong. After Demps completed the repair and reconnection of his left arm, Han Dong immediately left the control room and went downstairs. However, Han Dong did not immediately enter the battlefield. Instead, he stayed in the manager's office, which was about 18 floors above the battle area. Han Dong used his demonic eye to observe the battle that was taking place. What happened next caused Han Dong's body to tremble, and he broke out in a cold sweat. He even felt a stabbing pain in his demonic eye, as if it had been cut, in the scene that the magic eye saw through. Emperor Slayer no longer held back. He retracted the extremely terrifying domain, and at the same time, abandoned the throne and the 7 blades. Everything returned to its original state, and he pulled out the origin blade from his neck. One heart, this is... Han Dong was fully focused on the magic eye, and he saw the situation clearer than anyone else. The words, "Genuine Lumen," were clearly engraved on the blade. Is the body a blade? Genuine Lumen. However, the flesh body used to carry the famous blade is equally important. Not only does it play the role of carrying and wielding, but it also gathers all the sins that Emperor Slayer has committed in his life. So this is his true form. I guess luck played a big part in my survival. Count, can this work? Han Dong threw out the key question, which would determine whether the next operation could be carried out smoothly. As long as the rules contained in the slash belong to the same type as before, my blood can adapt. Through breeding, it can replace regeneration and quickly break through the shackles of the rules. However, it's still very dangerous. Once Nicholas, you make any wrong decision on the way, there's a 0-1's delay in the action, or they can't really restrain Emperor Slayer. We will all die, and we will die miserably. At this moment, Count became more serious than ever. Han Dong responded with a smile. As long as Count can do it, I won't make a mistake. Green will definitely meet the estimated requirements. Wait a little longer. The time should come soon. That's right. Count, how did you do it before? Time was of the essence. Han Dong did not have the time to ask Count how he managed to achieve the rebirth of his consciousness or even the complete transformation of his body in the process. TSK, do you think this Count is that easy to kill? Of course, the main reason was the necklace. In the early days, when I activated the Underworld Blood Necklace, my consciousness was drawn to the world where the Underworld blood originated from many times. What was certain was that it was a super world that was not much weaker than the Hybrid Demon world. The destruction of his consciousness and his approaching death just so happened to be an opportunity for this Count to completely break free from the Blood Brew cast body. This Count was already a completely new life form. He was a nether blood newborn body that retained the best characteristics of a blood descendant. In the future, he would definitely become even stronger than the blood ancestor. Of course, that is if we can survive. As expected, it has something to do with the necklace. It seems like, Count, your consciousness must have come into contact with the master of the underworld blood. By the way, have you found a way to repair the necklace? There's no need to fix it. This Count is the necklace. What do you mean? I am now a brand new underworld blood spokesperson. The necklace has merged with me. When this Count finds all the mythical puzzle pieces and breaks through the mythical body, the necklace will be complete. This answer made Han Dong's eyes light up. Legendary equipment was the foreign object that Han Dong was currently pursuing. It was estimated that after the London game ended, he would obtain the first legendary equipment with the help of the Black Tower treasure map. Whether he could obtain it was still uncertain. However, this Count was guaranteed to give him a legendary equipment. With such an unexpected gain, Han Dong even had to thank Emperor Slayer. Han Dong wanted to talk about the specific process of rebirth with Count in detail. Who knew that an unexpected scene would happen in the battlefield observed by the magic eye? This guy, Grim, actually ate his own mythical body. Ahem, That's because you don't know enough. This count had heard rumors about the chaos abyss. This was not a simple eating, but a glorious ceremony of the crazy banquet. Only recognized individuals would be eaten. This mythical body was considered a big gain. If he was eaten by Grimm, a part of the royal bloodline would be mixed into his body. At that time, he would be reborn through the crazy reincarnation. Although everything would start over again, becoming a demon, returning to his ancestors, becoming a mythical, everything would be worth it. Nicholas, if you want to do it, you have to prepare. Grimm, eating a mythical body in this way, should allow him to break through the limit and obtain mythical level power. Well, Count, you'll control the body. This sentence directly stunned Count. Huh? What the hell? You didn't say that I would do it before. You don't dare. This is not a matter of whether I dare or not. After all, the body is yours. In this kind of life and death situation, you should do it yourself. What I mean is that you will control the body and leave everything else to me. I need to rely 100% on your new attributes, Count, to fill every part of the body with underworld blood. The adaptability of the black vortex torso will allow this process to be completed quickly. Count, you only need to do one thing, and that is to use all the purity techniques you learned in the Fight Club to get close to the Emperor Slayer's attack range. I will concentrate on the demonic eye. In the process of getting close to the Emperor Slayer, fine-tune and detach the various parts of the body to avoid a fatal slash. Make sure that when you are close enough, you still have enough strength to attack. This process, I can't do it alone. I need your help, Count. I had just been reborn. If I die now, I will be too ashamed to go back. There's no time go. A type of plant, the primary and secondary positions changed. Suddenly, a large number of living blood vessels appeared from the surface of the body. The blood vessels spread to every corner of the body and dyed the whole body red. Drip, drip, drip. Blood dripped from the tip of the hair. Han Dong had turned into a person bathed in blood. Blood fusion. Starting from the hair, the body was deeply dissolved. In the form of basic blood, it quickly penetrated into the lower layer. Nicholas, you are finally here. Your aura seems a little different. Grimm had 100% confidence in Han Dong's arrival. He believed that Han Dong must have come with a plan that could defeat the Emperor Slayer. Domain expansion. True abyssal infernal prison Grimm, who was temporarily promoted to a mythical body, displayed a domain that could allow reality to intervene. Circles of areas that symbolized the opening of the abyss appeared in the laboratory. Under this domain, Grimm's comprehensive attributes would be improved. Waves of crazy murmurs echoed in the current area. At the same time, Grimm's movements became more convenient. It's useless. The Emperor Slayer stared at the formation of the abyss and gave a very low evaluation. At the same time, the Emperor Slayer gently touched the blade with his finger, using this method to improve his state of mind. The moment he opened his eyes were filled with the determination to slay. In a flash, time and space stopped at the moment the blade was drawn. There was no way to dodge. Grimm had already folded his arms in advance, forming a large shield imprinted with a crazy formation that symbolized the toughest insect lord. Crack. The moment the blade fell on the surface of the shield, there was a slight cutting sound. This made Grimm whisper excitedly, "It works." In the next second, the giant shield was cut in half, and Grimm's head was thrown out together with it. Chapter 1370. There was a huge difference between instantaneous slashing and gradual slashing. The former meant that the defense did not play any role, and there was no feedback or reaction time. The latter meant that the defense played a certain role. The defense would give the main body a certain amount of tactile feedback, and it could also buy a certain amount of reaction time. The gap between the king was insurmountable, but it did not mean that it was untouchable. In a world that nurtured billions of creatures, there might be one or two life forms that could not be defined by common sense. Their existence might have been used to break the conventional definition from the beginning, to lead the world to a higher level. Grimm used the mythical level Shia bug shield and the crazy secret text stored in the Abyss library, while his left and right arms combined the bug shield. A faint moon mark appeared on Grimm's forehead, stimulating his internal potential to the greatest extent. The Moon Lady had completely integrated herself into Grimm's body. She optimized, sorted, and coordinated the internal energy transport, and appropriately supplied her own hybrid demon energy so that Grimm could truly unleash the strength of a mythical level pinnacle. The defense created by this was enough to be called an absolute defense in the mythical level domain. Against a less aggressive king, it might be able to completely block it, but it was a pity that the one in front of him represented the sinful realm, dedicated everything to slashing, and reached the pinnacle of attack. However, Grimm never thought that he would be able to block the Kingslayer's attack head-on. He only hoped that the bug shield created by this method would be able to block the attack and would not be instantly slashed. As it turned out, it was effective. The slashing did not break through the bug shield immediately, and there was a change in the process of being slashed. There was a gap of about 0.7 seconds between the contact with the shield and the slashing. Taking advantage of this gap, before the slashing could affect the head, Grimm successfully completed his suicide. That's right, Grimm's head was not sent flying by the slashing, but by self-decapitation to create the illusion of being killed. 3 seconds after the suicide was completed, because the surrounding area had been covered by Grimm's true abyssal demonic hell, there were abyssal openings everywhere. Accompanied by a frenzied whisper, at the same time, more than 10 Grimm drilled out from different abyssal openings, their tongues dragged out of their bodies, and approached the center of the Kingslayer at the fastest speed. This made the Kingslayer very puzzled. The slashing just now did not work. While puzzled, he slashed again. Ring. The slash of the slash of a slash ripple quickly. Whoosh. Grimm and his doppelganger were cut in half at the same time. Broken tentacles, crushed intestines, and insect shells covered in mucus were scattered all over the place. Abyss incubation room. Thousands of Grimm's clones were being nurtured in the area like fungal spores. These clones were not born randomly. Each of them had a corresponding origin. It could be provided to Grimm, a special abyssal life form, for different activities and unlimited regeneration. The seemingly invincible ability was only limited to those of the same level. In the face of a king that could easily change the laws of the world, even a clone could not guarantee Grimm's survival. Once his vital point was struck, not only would his physical body be shattered, but the essence of the abyss would also be affected. Grimm had to commit suicide before he was killed. By committing suicide and rapidly depleting his clone's physical body, he was constantly getting closer to his opponent and attracting Emperor Slayer's attention. Boom! The abyss trembled. A certain part of the abyss had already completely collapsed. As Grimm's consciousness rapidly regenerated through the incubator, a cut about 10 centimeters deep immediately appeared on his waist. Damn it, I was a little slow just now. Even so, Grimm forcefully covered his wound and quickly climbed out of the abyss. It hadn't even been 3 seconds since it crawled out. Boom! Another 1,000-meter-long slash mark traversed across the abyss. The body that Grimm had just crawled out of had been killed. When he regenerated in the pregnant body, there was an additional slash marked diagonally downward on his shoulder. His flesh and bone were clearly visible. Just like that, a total of 186 highly valuable clones were consumed back and forth. His soul was also injured dozens of times. It could be said that Grimm was jumping back and forth on the scythe of the Grim Reaper. The slightest mistake would cause him to die completely. The 187th time Grimm, in the form of a lured insect, approached a distance of 3 meters for the first time. At the same time, it was also within Grimm's attack range. Whoosh! The pitch-black missile that was covered with fingernails popped out from his arm in the form of a folding knife. Grimm tightly held it in his hand. At the same time, there were dozens of tentacles wrapped around the handle of the knife to stabilize it. The Moon Lady Agatha in his body also transmitted a kind of knife will to Grimm's brain. Go to hell. When Grimm swung the black knife with all his might, he could even see some of the insect's appendages under his armpits, giving him strength support. Clang! At the same time, the floor collapsed. Grimm and Emperor Slayer fell down, 3 whole floors together. This slash was not over yet. Clack, 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 clack. Miss Lyle's form changed. The blade turned into a sawtooth structure made of dense fingernails, cutting at a high frequency. But the effect was not satisfactory. Parry! The sawtooth blade was firmly held by Emperor Slayer's true lumen. No matter how it cut, it was useless. I admit that you are different. Maybe when you become a king, you can threaten me, but unfortunately, it will all end here. Emperor Slayer gave Grimm a very high evaluation and changed the way he held the knife. Return parry rebound. When Emperor Slayer successfully released this move, it would cause 300% direct damage. There was no way to dodge, and there was no pause in the middle at this moment. Grimm had an intuitive feeling of being held by a knife on his neck. Even the chance of suicide was completely reduced to 0%. There was no doubt that he would die. Faced with such a situation, Grimm showed a very strange expression, as if he was trying to hold back his laughter. Ew. Emperor Slayer wanted to take advantage of the situation to kill the madman in front of him. But at the same time, he smelled a strange smell. The lake that was focused on the slash seemed to be contaminated by something. Blood. A drop of blood fell on the lake. The bright red color continued to spread. Drip, 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 drip. The ceiling above began to bleed with bright red blood, even reflecting a horrifying human face. Emperor Slayer's state of mind was completely disturbed. This change bought Grimm a second to react, and he quickly killed himself in the air. As the target in his hands was lost again, Emperor Slayer's state of mind became even more irritated. There were bigger ripples on the lake's surface. He could only target the blood that was condensing on top of his head. When the blood completely soaked out and condensed into an individual, 9-inch Emperor Slayer, who was distraught, immediately gave 9 slashes, targeting different fatal points. Although the 9 slashes were more fatal, the power of each slash was not as strong as the previous one. I can barely see it clearly. Count. I will control the microscopic body. You only need to be responsible for getting close to the opponent and regenerating the blood. Okay. When the blade slashed, pieces of bright red flesh flew in all directions. However, Han Dong successfully kept his head intact. He did not receive a single slash. From Emperor Slayer's point of view, such an injury was enough to completely kill a low-level individual. The law of each slash was enough to tear the soul into pieces. But the smell of blood that permeated the air became more dignified. A large amount of blood leaked out from the wound on the neck and outlined the outline of a baby in the air, directly forming the body of a newborn baby. And in the baby's hand was a bright red toy sword. The body of the sword grew together with the baby, turning into a demon slayer, holy sword bathed in the blood of the Supreme. The whole process was smooth. There was no gap at all. The holy sword replaced Emperor Slayer's true lumen and was inserted into the body through the neck. In the absolute sense, it had the effect of eliminating evil, cutting off all the sinful threads in Emperor Slayer's body. Chapter 1371. Blacksmith, Sinner, Dragon, Program. Currently, the 4 worlds that were known to attack London corresponded to the above attributes. If one wanted to distinguish between good and evil, Blacksmith leaned towards good, Sinner leaned towards evil, and Dragon and Program leaned towards neutral. Emperor Slayer was a sinner. Because of the countless lives she had taken, she was already plagued with sin. However, as a creature of the sinful realm, she could use the means given by the sinful realm to control the sin and turn it into a part of her own ability. Han Dong, who was hiding upstairs and spying, happened to see the essence of Emperor Slayer during the process. The body was the scabbard, and the head was the blade. As the body of the scabbard, it was also the container of accumulated sin. Han Dong was very clear. With a gap of 2 levels, It was extremely difficult or even impossible to break through the defense of Emperor Slayer's body. Even if it was a sneak attack, it would be difficult to cause substantial damage. Therefore, Han Dong shifted the target of his attack to the scabbard. He focused on the unprotected scabbard, which was the neck. Using Grim to attract the most attention, he disturbed Emperor Slayer's state of mind, as well as the regeneration of the underworld blood bestowed by Count. When all the conditions were met, he took out a holy sword of the same standard and inserted it into the body through the scabbard. The origin of the holy sword was still unknown. It was only known that it might be related to the saint-level world where the blacksmith came from. The holy sword itself was an item that transcended conventional understanding and could slay evil. It would even curse the user if they didn't regularly kill evil creatures. Whoosh! When the holy sword was inserted into Emperor Slayer's body, it immediately had a strong reaction to the sin flowing in Emperor Slayer's body. A pain of nerves being burned and cut off came. Emperor Slayer's painful cry resounded in the current space, and, at the same time, as the body of the true Lumen fell into a strange state, strong sin continued to overflow from the sword. Danger! Han Dong and Count felt the approach of death at this moment. The goal was achieved: retreat. The holy sword was withdrawn. Count, through the deep control of blood, coupled with the super-fast adaptability of the Black Vortex body, directly turned his body into a blood dog of the same size and rushed to the lower level at the fastest speed. The next second after leaving the current laboratory, buzz! Thousands of high-frequency spatial slashes directly cut the laboratory into a spherical shape. Emperor Slayer floated in the air in an extremely distorted manner, and his entire body was wrapped in thick threads of sin. At this moment, his state of mind had completely changed. Compared to his initial calm state, where he focused solely on killing his enemies, the current Emperor slaying had become extremely manic. Injuries were one reason. The main reason was that, as a king, he was actually injured by a junior who had opened the door. This was definitely not a matter of being injured. This was humiliation, a humiliation that would be engraved in the Emperor Slayer sword for the rest of his life. It might even disturb his mind at the crucial moment of enlightenment, evolving into an inner demon that hindered his cultivation. His future would be affected. I will cut your souls into threads and bring them to the heart of sin. You will suffer the most painful atonement for eternity. He cut open the metal plates between the floors, locked onto the fleeing Han Dong, and chased after him at full speed. Nicholas, I can feel a clear, murderous intent locked onto us. That guy is coming. Do you want to take over my body? I'm starting to miss piss. And give it to me. However, he still had to maintain his blood dog form. The current speed is very good, alternating between primary and secondary. As Han Dong regained control of the body, he used a blood-stained tentacle to pierce the hole in the shoulder socket. Grim, can you hear me? Leave the rest to me. So far, the plan has been going smoothly. It should be successful. You don't have to worry about the rest. Have a good rest. Han Dong thought that Grim would intervene no matter what, who knew that the following reply would make him feel a little surprised. Ahem, I'll wait for your good news. I just need a little rest. My body is hurting a little. Grim's voice was obviously not right. It sounded like he was forcing himself. This was the first time Han Dong had seen such a compromise. Okay, in the deepest part of the insane abyss, Grim's soul, which was full of injuries, was wrapped in a cloud of chaotic mist and was being nourished. The pressure of facing a king was too great. It almost crushed Grim. His soul had been slashed more than 30 times. If any of the slashes were deeper, Grim's life would be in danger. If he did not believe in Han Dong's support, he would not have been able to hold on. The facts proved that everything was worth it. The Scarlet Hound was running fast. Han Dong was only focused on running. He did not have the mind to create obstacles. For example, he could destroy the pillars and create obstacles. He could also control the infected zombies to help. Obstacles were useless in front of the Emperor Slayer. They would even waste Han Dong's time. Han Dong's mind was engraved with a clear route. Without taking any detours, he went deeper, Even so, the threat of the slashes behind him did not decrease. He could even clearly hear the sound of metal being cut. BZZT. Boss, can you hear me? I'm communicating with you through the brain radio. Goldie's voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Yes, what's the matter? I've tested the device 5 times. According to your battle just now, the data of the Emperor Slayer has been inputted into it. Now, it has been adjusted to the most suitable state to restrict the target. According to the parameters obtained from the simulation, it can ensure that nothing goes wrong. Boss, you must try your best to lure the Emperor Slayer to the designated location. The more precise, the better the effect. Okay, boss, once the restriction device is activated, everything in the area will be sealed. How will you escape? You only need to be responsible for activating the device. I have a way. Remember, there's only one chance. If there's any mistake, we'll all die here. Understood, boss? I've already adjusted the feedback to the minimum. There won't be any problems. Boss, you must escape. The conversation ended. Han Dong transformed from the bloodhound into his human form. He stood at the entrance of an elevator hidden at the end of a secret passage in the Organic Research Institute. The elevator would bring Han Dong to the restricted area, which was 100 meters below the ground. The Emperor Slayer will catch up to me if I take the elevator. This is the only way. Without Meridus's help. Han Dong put 2 fingers between his eyebrows and created an inverted triangular mark that symbolized the void. At the cost of using up the spatial energy to teleport hundreds of meters, this meant that Han Dong's energy was exhausted. He would not be able to teleport until the end of the battle. Buzz. The moment Han Dong transformed into starlight and disappeared, 3 slashes of different depths appeared in the air. If he had been 1 second late in making a decision or taking the elevator, he would have been killed. The next second, Han Dong appeared in a cylindrical secret room. Asterisk smack. Asterisk before the device was fully activated, the 100-fold gravity forced Han Dong to kneel on 1 knee. His kneecap was even directly shattered. Chapter 1372. Restricted Equipment. Hyperspace Restraints. This underground area was built by Handsome Jack after he completed his promotion to the King tier. It was a place for him to adapt and train his body. When he had no use for it in the future, he considered that there might be an emergency in the company, so he strengthened and modified the original facility. Handsome Jack even provided his own detailed parameters. The final secret room could lock a king of the same level. When it was located in the middle of the equipment, it could even suppress a middle-level king. Currently, the equipment had not been activated, but Han Dong was forced to kneel on 1 knee. Dead stance, his whole body turned into sand, saving the weight of his internal organs and bones. Thanks to the floating effect provided by the yellow sand, Han Dong was able to maintain basic mobility. Demps, is he not here yet? Just as he thought of this. Buzz. The metal door facing him was torn diagonally by a slash filled with sin. The slash aura that seeped and made Han Dong's whole body hurt, and tiny slash marks were branded on the surface of his body. The violent Emperor Slayer's form changed again, and the sin that was suppressed in his body was now in a state of release. The bandage swayed in the air under the entanglement of the sinful threads. 7 white bone arms of different thickness and length grew out from his back, holding the 7 famous swords on the throne. As for Emperor Slayer's original body, Lumen Orthodox Sword, it was still in his right hand. Facing Emperor Slayer, who broke in the sealed secret room, Han Dong, who had exhausted all his space energy, could not escape at all. He could only make a very helpless expression. Before the slash arrived, he said a sentence in the standard Black Tower language. King is indeed very strong. No matter what method I use, I can't overcome this perception. Your corresponding Sin realm should have a stronger existence, right? I really want to go and take a look. Emperor Slayer would not be fooled this time, and she would not waste time chatting. When they first met, because of her curiosity about Han Dong, she let him run away because of inappropriate chatting. Her mind was in a mess, and she only wanted to quickly kill Han Dong and then follow to find the young man related to the abyss. Don't worry, I will shatter your body and soul. Through the sinful threads, I will strip your consciousness and bring it back to the sin realm. At that time, you will meet the original sin, infant. Your sins will be judged by the court of original sin, and you will be imprisoned in the depths of the sinful heart prison. You will be accompanied by pain for eternity, and you will undergo endless atonement. Pain? It sounds pretty cool. Han Dong was not afraid at all. Instead, after hearing Slayer Emperor's words, he spread his arms and made a pose that said, "I want to be slain. Die." Emperor Slayer stepped in front of Han Dong, right in the middle of the secret chamber. He raised the Lumen Orthodox School over his head. The 7 famous swords were also suspended in different positions, emitting different attack attributes, ensuring that they could kill Han Dong without holding back. This time, there would be no mistakes. However, the spread of his arms was also a signal to Han Dong. Goldie, who was integrated into the control room, pressed the start button. The rhenium gold produced by Han Dong in advance was put into the energy combustion chamber, and the hyperspace restraints was activated at maximum load. 1. F***CK. At this moment, Han Dong had a feeling that his brain was crushed into paste, and the energy flowing in his body was completely chaotic. Not only was there a gravitational effect, but there was also a quite terrifying spatial magnetic field acting on the secret chamber, especially in the center. Even if Han Dong was prepared, he still lost his self-consciousness the moment the equipment was activated. It was all thanks to the self-protection provided by the faceless skull and his strong willpower that his consciousness gradually recovered after a few seconds, barely maintaining 5% of the basic functions. As for the dead body, it was completely annihilated under the effect of the restrictive equipment. The remaining head, wrapped in tentacles, fell to the ground. The scene in front of him surprised Han Dong. Emperor Slayer still maintained a standing posture. Is this still not enough? By reducing the field to forcibly resist the restrictive equipment. In a hazy vision, Emperor Slayer's blade was inserted into the ground, holding on. A wisp of sin was forcibly wrapped around his wrist, and he slowly raised the Lumen Orthodox School in his hand. He was determined to kill Han Dong here. At the same time, an intermittent electromagnetic voice sounded in his mind. "Bo, boss, hurry, leave, immediately. The next stage, you will die." Han Dong had exhausted everything. Maintaining 5% of his consciousness for basic thinking and observation was already the maximum limit. God borrowing may be effective, but it may not be able to smoothly escape from the device restricting King. Not to mention there was still a violent Emperor Slayer in front of him. Compared to God borrowing, Han Dong believed in another thing more. Emperor Slayer resisted the restrictions of the equipment and raised the famous sword again. At the same time, a countdown was going on in a shadowy corner. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1. A cubic energy field instantly rose and covered Han Dong's head. Upon closer inspection, the energy field also glowed with a colorful luster, like a square crystal with refractive properties. Rubik's Cube, a strange item that was soulbound to Demps. This item had been hidden in the center of the room in advance, waiting for Han Dong's arrival. This was also the request that Han Dong had made in the control room. If he wanted to lure Emperor Slayer into a trap, Han Dong would have to go in personally. Moreover, there was a high probability that his energy would be exhausted at the last moment, and he would be trapped in the equipment together with Emperor Slayer. He had to rely on the help of a third party. Demps was the best helper. At the most critical moment, he would transfer Han Dong out without a single mistake. Han Dong believed that Demps had the ability to do so. He didn't ask about the specific method at all and directly entrusted his life to the other party. He calculated the timing perfectly. The soulbound item also had a storage function. The moment it wrapped around Han Dong's brain, it was recalled to the host's hand. At this time, it was the stage change that Goldie had just warned about. The restricted equipment was at full power and entered the absolute seal operating mode. Rings of metal driven by rhenium gold appeared around Emperor Slayer, restricting all movements. A scream of hatred and anger filled the secret room. Demps held the Rubik's Cube with one hand and grabbed the spare door handle with the other. He pushed the heavy metal door with all his might and sealed the secret room again. Just as the spare metal door was about to close, buzz! A slash came. Neither Demps nor Han Dong expected that Emperor Slayer would be able to make such a powerful slash at this time. However, Demps had no intention of letting go. Han Dong had fought for this situation with all his might. If he let go, all his previous efforts would be wasted. Boom! The metal door closed. Swish, blood splattered everywhere. Demps's right arm and part of his right body were all cut off. His vision turned black and his body fell heavily to the ground, breaking into two halves. P.S. I went back to my hometown for the Spring Festival. I originally wanted to take a break on the eve of the Spring Festival, but I ended up writing the climax. I had to finish this part before taking a break. Next, the plot will gradually enter the climax, which is the Battle of London. I took a long leave, 3 days. Fatty is a piece of trash who doesn't have a stockpile of manuscripts. I hope everyone can forgive me. I'll spend time with my family. When I'm free, I'll start to steal manuscripts to lay a good foundation for the upcoming battle. Chapter 1373. Borderline Casino. At the gambling table that symbolized Herbal Incorporation, a man in a gray vest, whose appearance changed according to the angle of observation, was wantonly collecting chips on the table. Although the final judgment was that Grimm and Nicholas contributed equally in this battle, due to the odds, this person still won a large fortune. Just as he was collecting chips, a chaotic sound came from different corners of the casino. If one had to describe this sound with human hearing, it was like the pronunciation of every word in an English paragraph was completely disrupted and then came from different directions with different tones and wavelengths. Only individuals with chaos analysis could correctly identify this language. Unfortunately, the gamblers sitting there all had this ability. Naya, the human you chose is quite good. I look forward to his future development. The gray man did not reply, but turned to the old man and nodded to show his respect. Christopher J. Grimm, status, soul damaged, currently recovering slowly in the abyss through a special devouring method. This battle caused the corresponding mythical entity and trump card of the forces behind Grimm to lose. The weapon Mislile was also heavily damaged and could not be used for a while, or it might cause permanent damage, just like the Dark Blood Skull in Han Dong's hands, which dropped to epic level due to damage. However, in the face of such a loss, Grimm, who was healing, still maintained a smile. This was the London game he expected. This level was worthy of Father to watch in person, and this level of difficulty was enough to support his madness. At the same time, Grimm himself also gained a lot from this battle. The last mythical puzzle involving the core was showing signs of being formed. Helen Silber, status, overloaded. Due to the prolonged summoning of the celestial body, Moon Lady Agatha, she possessed Grimm's body to fight against the Emperor Slayer. Until now, Helen still had not removed her possession status. She was carrying out an extremely important task. Control Room Yellow. Goldie was reading various parameters at super fast speed and integrating a set of special algorithms. Due to the hyperspace confinement device, also known as the secret chamber, due to the strong magnetic field maintained by the energy of the pyrolite, or any form of monitoring equipment could not capture the specific situation inside the secret chamber and could not directly monitor the imprisonment state of the Emperor Slayer. The overall situation could only be judged by the energy output parameters in the secret chamber. Han Dong had just dealt with various matters in the company and barely restored the production line of the metal zombies. He returned to the control room with a tired face. Little Yellow, what's the situation in the secret room? The equipment cycle operating coefficient has stabilized at 60 Hz. On this basis, the electron collision efficiency of the rhenium gold has been increased to 95%. Compared to the initial stage of startup, the stability rate of the secret chamber has increased to 350%. Duh. This is the secret room algorithm that I compiled. Even if there was a small fluctuation in the internal data, the algorithm would be included in the analysis. Even if there were some low-risk situations, I would know immediately. Boss, don't worry. As long as there is enough pyrolite, the equipment will remain stable. Very good. Han Dong had already thrown the feeling of surviving a calamity to the back of his mind. Due to the arrival of Emperor Slayer, not only was the entire plan disrupted, the condition of his teammates was also not very good, especially Demps Martin, who had been hit head-on at the very last moment. Take the elevator to Organic Research Institute, Advanced Sterile Culture Room. The triple hydraulic doors opened facing each other. A glass cylinder filled with nutrient solution stood in the center of the room. Demps, who had been sliced in half, was soaked in the liquid. At the same time, there was a graceful woman from a normal perspective who was also soaked in the liquid. Her body was completely attached to Demps's body. Vitality from the depths of the Dreamlands continued to flow into Demps's body, neutralizing the severing will that was left in the wound. After almost a day and a night of healing, there were now sparse vines connecting the two halves of his body. It felt like the two halves of his body were about to be reunited. At the same time, Demps's consciousness was also led to the witch's home to receive the special dream healing. However, the progress was much slower than expected. Demps had suffered the most direct and fatal injury. If not for his unique body and the throne that had already taken shape, he would have died the moment he was sliced in half. The slow and stable recovery was partly due to the resistance of the throne against the rules, and partly due to Miss Helen's absolute dedication. Han Dong reached out to touch the glass container lightly. After confirming that the situation was getting better, he could finally put down the rock in his heart. Although the price is high, it's still worth it. Han Dong had placed the incident that happened in Herbal and Company into the brain of a highly sensitive and adaptable metal zombie through memory implantation. Through the station, he arrived at the closest location to London and secretly brought the information back. As long as the information was successfully sent back, no matter how London dealt with it, the advantage of this battle would shift. King being trapped was enough to tilt the balance. With Emperor Slayer trapped here, the overall situation may change. The other party may give up the plan to attack London because Emperor Slayer hasn't returned yet. They may change their route and first dispatch the army to pass through Herbal and Company. Although I sent the information to London, the probability of arranging for a King-class support is not high. After all, the pressure of the world network is still there. Once a King is found to be heading to Herbalin, the other party may take this opportunity to attack London in one fell swoop. The only and safest solution is move. There are only 4 days left before the energy of the land deed is exhausted and the battle begins. I must complete the move in advance and avoid the monitoring of the world network. Thinking of this, Han Dong supported his tired body and began to make a sand table deduction in his mind. A draft plan was quickly being constructed. 2 days had passed since Emperor Slayer personally took action. Except for the strong energy fluctuations that could be felt in Herbalin at the beginning, as well as several slashes that overflowed from the buildings, there had been no movement for a long time. There was no news about Emperor Slayer in Markmas City. This made some people restless. Black Dragon Elder even smashed the table with his palm. We've been tricked. There must be a king hiding in Herbal and Company, deliberately waiting for us to be caught. Something must have happened to Emperor Slayer. We must formulate a series of measures. Otherwise, this battle will go badly wrong. In contrast, Blacksmith 3 was calm. Don't worry, Emperor Slayer may have just taken some time to deal with some troubles in Herbal and Company. Even if there is a king ambush inside, it won't be enough to kill her. In terms of the difficulty of killing, Emperor Slayer should be ranked second among us. Are you sure you can kill her? It is basically impossible for a king of the same level to completely kill the other party. Moreover, Emperor Slayer has a special characteristic. I believe she will come back on time to participate in the final battle. The mother immediately added, I agree. According to the data analysis in my hands, the probability of Emperor Slayer returning in time is 81. 3%. We just have to do the things at hand. In the last 3 days, we just have to do our best to complete the packing. Chapter 1374. Sand Table Deduction. Han Dong took into account that the enemy forces in Markham City had all arrived and that the enemy had chosen to carry out the original plan to attack London directly. Thinking about how to deal with all kinds of possible events without affecting the Emperor's slaying seal and zombie creation. Finally, he set up an executable shedding plan. He proposed to divide Herbalin into 2 parts, the outer shell and the core. Outer shell, the company's external buildings, protective layer, and facilities that would not affect the manufacturing of zombies and firearms, as well as the Emperor's slaying seal. The existence of the outer shell would allow the entire company to operate normally. Core, the R&D and manufacturing department involved in the core technology, the Organic Research Institute, and the secret room where the Emperor's slaying seal was imprisoned. Finally, he discussed with the robot Goldie and came up with a modification plan for the active core. The plan was as follows: expand the company's attached station system and integrate the core with the train. A carriage, or multiple combined carriages, corresponded to an important department of the company. One of the carriages needed to be perfectly integrated with the secret room, and the imprisoned Emperor's slaying seal would be moved together with the train. It sounded simple. In fact, when Han Dong proposed this plan and time limit, Goldie's embedded chip was almost burned. However, through complex calculations, they still managed to come up with a barely feasible plan. If the ideal modification was achieved, it might be able to catch up. The entire modification process required a large number of additional manpower. Not only did it require the less intelligent zombies to work as manual labor, but it also required the full assistance of Grimm and his crazy troops. The crazy troops had the same origin as Insect Lord Gada. They also belonged to the Sire Insect tribe. Due to the rules of London's game, they maintained a human posture as much as possible. Their heads that could barely be called human heads were embedded in meatballs or connected by body segments, or had compound eyes or exposed curved teeth. Tentacles, ranging from 4 to 16, overflowed from the inverted body cavity. Their backs either had pairs of insect wings or carried a relatively heavy carapace. No matter what they used to be, they had now changed into employee uniforms with the Herbalin logo. Due to their different abilities, they were assigned to different positions and would work continuously for 3 days without sleep or rest. Even Grimm, whose soul had not fully recovered, was pulled in. Grimm's abyss characteristic could play a crucial role in transporting any material through the abyss to achieve ultra-fast transportation. Han Dong had thought that Green, with his personality, would refuse this kind of boring, trifling matter. But when Han Dong put forward the request, his reply was, "Anyway, I can't go out and fight right now. I can use my body however I want. Your plan sounds very interesting." The king-level incident increased Green's trust in Han Dong once again. It could even be said that ever since Grimm was born, no one had ever reached such a level of intimacy with him. Moreover, it was not just trust. Even on the interest level, Han Dong surpassed the other primordial substances and was ranked first in Grimm's heart. While the shedding plan was proceeding in an orderly manner, the metal zombies secretly dispatched by Han Dong passed through the magnetic storm and successfully arrived in London. The dark servants guarding the city gate thought that the zombie was a spy from an enemy force. Just as he was accumulating dark energy and preparing to kill Han Dong, a crow that had been hiding in the zombie's mouth suddenly crawled out and recorded Han Dong's words like a phonograph. The sound was transmitted directly into the servant's brain. "I am the Archbishop of the Black Moon, Warren Nicholas. This zombie is a controllable creature created by me through Herbalin technology. There are still many documents related to me on his body. The zombie's brain records important information that happened in Herbalin. Please be sure to inform Father Lysos as soon as possible, under the condition that there were no errors. The information was quickly passed to the higher-ups in London, including the king-level Great Demon Captain. Under the condition that there were no errors after repeated verification, everyone became extremely shocked. The biological mother, who had always been lazy, stood up straight. She did not quite believe the information recorded in the zombie's brain. An enemy king level has been imprisoned? Even if we lose a mythical creature, using equipment that was once created by a local king is too exaggerated. The tentacles on the back of the biological mother's head were constantly wriggling, conducting a deeper verification of the zombie's memory. However, while the Great Demon Captain was excited, his expression slowly turned to one of worry. As our battle plan has been fully implemented, the two king-level bosses, Malone and Alex, have left London with a large number of troops. Now we have no manpower to deal with the king imprisoned in Herbalin. Once the other party discovers that we have transferred manpower, they might use extreme means to take over London. How to deal with it is a troublesome matter, then there is no need to deal with it. Since the information sent back did not contain any request for reinforcements, it means that they still have strength left and are confident that they can continue to restrict this king. Just focus on carrying out the battle plan and trust these little guys. Nicholas has obtained prison authority and has been directly recognized by our king. Mother Evernight's abnormal trust in Han Dong also came from their intimate private contact. More importantly, this was a critical juncture that determined life and death. Only Mother Evernight knew the remaining energy of the land deed. She and the Great Demon Captain were indispensable in London. A war could break out at any time. Father Evernight's hands formed a triangle in front of him and gave a conclusion. In that case, the situation of Herbalin will be handed over to Bishop Nicholas to deal with. We will continue to focus on the battle at hand. At the same time, we will not consider the situation of a king being restrained. Everything will be carried out according to the Great Demon Captain's battle plan. Just as the discussion ended, Mother Evernight pulled out the tentacle from the zombie's head. After the metal zombie completed the memory-sharing command, it continued to carry out the next command arranged by Han Dong. It inserted its hands into its chest cavity. Whoosh! In front of everyone, it moved its chest outward, and a special black underworld was pressed under its heart. It was engraved with the words handed over to Pop through special starlight. Is there information about the world's core? I will pass the letter. The meeting will end here. Father Lysos took the letter under the heart and stepped out of the door to head to the British Library. Without any warning, a positron beam descended from the sky. It collided with the land deed barrier that enveloped London, and an extremely dazzling light burst out. The energy of the land deed that was estimated to last for 3 more days was rapidly consumed. In a few minutes, the land deed in Mother Evernight's hands completely turned into a piece of scrap paper. The barrier was broken. The brilliance of the superimposed 5 stars instantly covered the streets and alleys of London. Flesh burned, and the painful howls of the hybrid demons rang out in the streets and alleys of the city. At the same time, waves of black smoke floated up from the bottom of the River Thames, temporarily acting as a simple barrier. Dong, dong, dong. Bells rang from all directions. Prepare for battle. Father Lyso's voice rang out together with the bells of the various churches. The residents held up their spare black umbrellas and went to the corresponding areas to prepare for the impending invasion. Chapter 1375. The 4 worlds that had descended to Pandora in advance had been preparing for war from the very beginning. The Matrix, which had elements related to program, technology, and machinery, had an extremely high compatibility with the world. Markmas City was a city of machinery that she had quickly built using the blueprint she brought from her original world and the rich metal resources of Pandora. Markmas City's function was far more than just accommodating an army. The positron cannon built in the center of the city was one of the most advanced technological products of the Matrix's world. It was initially designed to deal with dimensional war. Currently, taking advantage of the similarity between the worlds, 83% scientific commonality, a giant positron cannon had been built in the center of the city. Although some of the materials and structures were slightly different, the overall electron collision effect was the same. There were 3 days left before the London land deed ran out of energy and the battle fully started. The Matrix personally acted as the computing module of the positron cannon, and it was the first time it was used in a trial in another world. The difference between the worlds was not only the various materials used to build the positron cannon, but also the impact of the most important environmental factors, including the coefficient of gravity, the strength and direction of the magnetic field, the rate of rotation, and so on. Trying to use it was a very necessary thing. If it was successful, the energy of the land deed would be exhausted in one fell swoop, and a huge advantage for their side. If there was a deviation in the shot, the Matrix would correct it according to the deviation coefficient to ensure that the next shot would hit, and it would not affect the normal progress of the battle plan at all. Pandora's rotation and the coefficient of gravity error have been added. The positron accelerator is finally stable. The energy supply of the acceleration magnetic field is stable, and the pulse coefficient is maintained in an excellent state. Firing is allowed. The moment the positron cannon was activated, the power of all the non-important industrial areas of Markma City was cut off, and 70% of the area was in a state of blackout. An energy beam rose diagonally into the sky and headed toward the preset coordinates under the traction of Pandora's magnetic field. The result was without any deviation, and it accurately hit London from a very long distance. This experimental positron cannon directly consumed the little remaining energy of the land deed, and the enchantment that shrouded London was forcibly torn apart. Amazing! Such an external item has such powerful power. When the world mission is over, this old man will go to your world as a guest and try to introduce this thing called technology into the Dragonborn world. Of course, some precious dragon crystals will be given as a reward. Our Dragon King clans have many naturally intelligent individuals who will be able to learn this technology in a short time. The Black Dragon Elder stared at the impact caused by the positron cannon on the three-dimensional projection, and his dragon eyes flashed with golden light. He now had a strong interest in this technology that he had once disdained. Feng B. Kryman, the blacksmith from the world of saints, stared at the image on the projection screen with a hint of joy, but he was not surprised. After all, he was also involved in the construction of the positron cannon. In his eyes, this was something that he had expected. It was still too early for them to defeat the hybrid demons. The blacksmith only wanted to complete the strategy step by step. The deed has been broken. Mother, what do you plan to do? Do we need to send troops now? According to my calculations, the success rate of launching the general attack at the original time will be higher. There are 3 reasons for this. Give Emperor Slayer a certain amount of time to return. 2. Take advantage of the time when London's barrier is torn apart and use the harsh environment to weaken the hybrid demons. 3. Give the positron cannon time to charge. Next time, we will directly bombard the gate of London and strive to directly destroy the foundation of the city so that the hybrid demons will not have any protection. Every successful bombardment will greatly increase our chances of winning. Finally, Mr. Kryman needs to conduct a deeper inspection to ensure that there are no mistakes. Well, then let's act according to the original time. London. The city's preparation for war had lasted for 2 hours. Without the protection of the deed, all kinds of resources were being rapidly consumed. In the end, Father Lysos withdrew all the troops stationed in the city that were exposed to the light. The churches scattered in different areas were changed into outposts, and with the hybrid demon celestial body suspended in the sky and the expedition eye provided by the human expeditionary army, they carried out a high-density investigation of the situation outside the city. In this way, the loss of resources and manpower caused by the environment was minimized. At the same time, all the researchers in London were also gathered. Dong dong dong. The iron door of the basement of the Scarlet Manor was knocked. A dark envoy personally came to invite Dr. Swollen to participate in the temporary scientific research meeting. Dr. Swollen was not very willing. After all, the work at hand was very tight. He had to complete a special mass production process before the date proposed by Han Dong. However, after the other party stated the seriousness of the matter, the doctor still made his own subjective choice. For the time being, the situation in the laboratory was controlled by Professor West and many of the ancients. He would participate in this temporary meeting as the representative of the manor. As the temporary mistress of the manor, Black Goat, Sally had already ordered the crazy dragon to spread out its mountain-like dragon wings and cover all the areas of the manor to isolate the burning damage caused by the sun staring at the landee that had been completely destroyed. Sally's heart was filled with anxiety as she prayed inwardly. Nicholas will definitely be able to come back in time. As for Dr. Swollen, he was gathered in the British Library with many other hybrid demon researchers, including the second original substance, Pop Minda. The secret letter that Han Dong arranged for the zombie to carry had been passed to Pop. But now, he was more concerned about the urgent situation in front of him. The researchers gathered here were analyzing the positron strike that had just arrived and needed to come up with a plan to deal with this antimatter weapon in a short period of time. Since the opponent could fire once, it must be able to fire a second time. If there were no countermeasures when the next bombardment arrived, the city of London, without the protection of the deed, would be directly destroyed, and a large number of residents would be obliterated by the antimatter annihilation effect. Just as everyone was discussing intensely, Pop suddenly gave an extremely risky suggestion. We can use the plane migration device that previously took a lot of resources and time to create. Through the astrological prophecy given by my Void Church, we can locate the next bombardment in advance and use the device to deflect the bombardment. If the device is damaged by the bombardment, do we still have a way out? Someone immediately raised the key question. This battle not only needed to fight against the invaders, but also to complete the evacuation before the world collapsed. Both were indispensable. This is a letter that Bishop Nicholas gave me. If the contents are true, even if the device is damaged, we can successfully evacuate through another native device. Dr. Swollen, can you confirm the authenticity of this letter? Whoosh! The letter turned into starlight and appeared in the hands of Dr. Swollen. It can't be wrong. Whether it's the material of the letter, the handwriting, or the aura emitted by the words, they all came from my lord. As long as it's his judgment, it will definitely work. Although Pop drew a clear line in his relationship with Han Dong, he acknowledged his ability in his heart. If that's the case, I hope to borrow everyone's strength to modify the plane migration device. This battle is gambling on the dignity of us hybrid demons. We must win no matter what. Chapter 1376. There were only 24 hours left before the scheduled outbreak of the war. Herbalin's shedding plan had reached its final stage. Basically, the company's core was combined with the train. Once the arrival of outsiders was discovered, the train would be activated immediately, and the company's most important parts would be transported away from the underground station, leaving only the company's shell here. But Han Dong released a large number of metal zombies as spies by casting a net, but did not discover the arrival of any intruders. He even arranged for a group of zombies with decent abilities to move quickly towards Markham City. During this period, they did not encounter any hostile forces. It was as if the other party did not care about the Emperor Slayer at all and was holed up to carry out some secret plan. This illogical behavior made Han Dong feel uneasy. The Emperor Slayer is a king-level combat power, the key to victory, and they don't want it? Or do they believe that the Emperor Slayer can escape in time? Or do they have a more important bargaining chip in their hands? Han Dong also verified the situation of the secret room with Goldie many times. There was no sign of escape at all, not even a trace of parameter fluctuations related to struggle. The unusual stability was brewing uneasiness. However, there's also good news. Grimm used the Abyss Devour and swallowed a total of 7 atavistic bodies with good strength. Finally, his injured soul was completely repaired and reappeared in a nearly new state. Of course, it was also through a hole in Han Dong's body. Dimps' body that was cut in half was also completely healed. His vital signs were completely stable, but he could not throw himself into the front line of the war. After recovering his mind, he could only stay at Herbalin to help. Of course, Handong also considered this point. In the letter sent to Pop Mendar, it was specifically mentioned that there would be a human receiving Pop in the company to provide guidance and assistance. After Miss Helen finished all this, she directly fell into a deep sleep, through the most primitive sleep to recover her completely exhausted body. Even Grimm gave a relatively surprised evaluation. It's really interesting. This is the first time I've seen Helen willing to sacrifice like this. In the original game, Helen was a relatively dangerous character. She would only use her beauty to seize benefits from others and would never take the initiative to contribute. This woman once wanted to benefit from me and was almost killed by me, all because of the thing hidden in her body. Han Dong just smiled inwardly and didn't say much. Grimm, who had completely recovered, had also completely recovered his crazy temperament. Nicholas, what should we do next? Do you want to think of a way to slowly deal with the imprisoned Emperor Slayer? Or do you want to use this train system you created to directly attack the enemy's main camp? With our current levels, even if we use all our skills, we won't be able to kill Emperor Slayer, right? It's also impossible for me to throw Emperor Slayer into the secret door in your body that connects to the core of madness like I did with the Gold Saint. The risk is too great. Besides, with so many planes between us, your connection to the core of madness should have been broken by now. Once we attack, we will create an opportunity for them to escape. Let's not think about killing emperors for now. When the stripping is complete, we will take the principal parts of the company to the station near London, and when the war breaks out, we will sneak in from the flank. As for this secret room carriage that imprisoned Emperor Slayer, it will automatically separate during the train journey and leave Pandora on its own. The energy stored on it is enough to allow the train to rush out of this planet and head straight to the nearest star. Star Barbecue. That's quite creative. All right, we'll do as you say. How many troops do we have now? Grimm had become more cautious after the king-level incident, and he gladly accepted such a safe plan. Han Dong directly inserted his middle finger into Grimm's head and connected to his brain's nerves through his tentacles, sharing the shared network established by the clown virus. Such an experience made the eye hole on the surface of Grimm's eyes shrink continuously. It was as if he was extremely satisfied. Wow, so many. Your madness is indeed different. Such contagion and control is unique. After the game is over, you must come back with me to see Father. Han Dong was the first to agree. Madness was one of Han Dong's major attributes. It was related to the subsequent mythological structure. It was necessary for him to meet the Mad Ancestor. However, if we want to win this game, it won't be that easy. Everything is too quiet, too quiet. It is estimated that there is only one day left before the war starts, and there are still no signs of large-scale migration on Pandora. The imprisoned Emperor Slayer also did not put up any resistance. I have an ominous feeling that something big is going to happen. Oh, it seems that the other party is quite capable, but this is the difficulty that should be there. It is the dangerous situation that needs to be uncontrollable so that I can put on a good enough stage play for Father. Perspective change. In a secret underground tunnel less than 10 kilometers away from Markham City, the two leaders, Malone and Alex, used the Fate item, Thanatos Shadow Cloak, to completely hide their bodies in the chaos of death and quickly move through the shadows. Even perception would be affected by death and could not detect the situation inside. After a while, an all-metal city-state that caused Malone to reveal a troubled expression appeared in his eyes. The overall size of the city was about twice the size of London, and the whole city was shrouded in a kind of enchantment that was comparable to the effect of a land deed. To be able to build a city of this scale in a foreign world, as expected of a king with a technological background, so troublesome. According to the plan, the two of them would temporarily hide outside Markham City. When the enemy was fully mobilized, the two of them would launch a secret attack on Markham City. This way, they would be able to use the time difference to completely uproot the enemy's state-level city before London fell. They had to be fast enough to rush back in time to support. At that time, they would unite with London and jointly attack the enemy in the middle. However, on the last day of the war, the enemy did not send out their troops. Malone held the held bottle at his waist tightly. His palms were sweaty, and the anxiety in his heart continued to rise. Why are they still not sending out their troops? Could it be that the enemy is not preparing to attack as soon as London's enchantment is exhausted and is planning to delay until the last moment? It shouldn't be. When the world collapses, they will also die. Just as Malone was puzzled, the scene in front of them shocked the two leaders. The all-metal city that was rooted in the underground world was like an intelligent machine that was self-packaging. The city walls, streets, and various buildings began to fold in an orderly manner. It was as if everything was planned when the city was first built, and the folded buildings were perfectly fitted like Tetris, making good use of every inch of space. In a short period of time, Markham City turned into a sealed cube, and through the acceleration circle of the underground magnetic field, it performed a space jump and disappeared in front of the two. The worst has happened. Malone gritted his teeth and planned to summon his mount and rush back in the opposite direction. Alex had already disappeared. This is not good. Everyone, you must hold on. Chapter 1377. It wasn't just the two human leaders and Han Dong's team that left the city. About 50% of the entire force left London and carried out their respective plans. They couldn't return to London before the war started. This also included a group of witches that had strong overall connectivity and were directly under the Mother. This group of special dark residents never showed up on the surface of London. Their activities were limited to the bottom of the Thames, the hidden underground buildings, and the periphery of their Mother, N.G.'s palace. They weren't controlled by the Church of Evernight and Father Lysos. They only obeyed their Mother. They were also known as fallen wizards who worship absolute darkness, devout dark priests, and Black River. Every year, 1101, the dark residents who had never undergone a blood test would go to the Thames and throw a drop of blood essence from their hearts into the river to test their affinity with darkness and witchcraft talent. If an individual had a strong resonance with drinking water, they would be invited to the outer palace of their Mother to participate in the witch's assessment. Unknowingly, a special and huge group gradually formed at the bottom of the Thames. They were intoxicated with profound, dark magic all day and night. They even willingly gave up their bodies and replaced them with darkness. Although they absolutely obeyed their Mother, there was also a special leader among them. He was known as the branch of their Mother, and his status was equal to Father Lysos. He was one of the top mythical existences in London, Heart of the Witches, Card Artisan Jones. His human appearance was a middle-aged white man with a black heart exposed on the surface of his body. He had a small ponytail at the back of his head and a special masculine temperament. Currently, the witches led by Card Artisan were far away from London according to the battle plan. Now, they had completely occupied the second largest firearms company on Pandora Atoll. Before Herberlin Hyperion's dictatorship, due to Jack's private activities, Dahl's coverage was almost the same as a dictatorship. It was just that this company's way of doing things was relatively mild. Not only firearms and large machinery, but even the most basic convenience toilets were printed with Dahl's logo. Therefore, when Card Artisan used special means to restore Dahl's power supply, all the secret base stations on Pandora were also restored to the main company. Through the base station, they could observe the specific situation in some areas of Pandora. It was a pity that Card Artisan and the others couldn't make use of nearly 100% of the company's resources like Han Dong, because their technology wasn't up to par. They could only use Dahl Company as an intelligence station, just as they were using the company to monitor the world. He accidentally captured a large-scale space jump. and the path just happened to lead to London. The card artisan realized that the situation was not good. He immediately brought the key information he had collected from Doll Company and led the group of witches to turn into a dark river flowing underground and rush back. A space jump of such a scale. To Han Dong, there was no need for instruments to sense that the spatial jump of the entire Markham City could change the spatial field of the entire planet. Although he had long guessed that the other party would use special means to gather a large number of troops and quickly arrive in London without any losses, we still didn't expect that the other party would use such a method. He did not expect that the other party would actually be able to bring the technology to Pandora. They could package the city and directly migrate it as a whole. The convenience brought by the high-tech world was really unpredictable. This way, the two commanders would be completely empty-handed, and London would face even greater pressure than expected. If they couldn't hold on, the entire plan would completely collapse. The only good news is that Emperor Slayer is still trapped here with us. Compared to 4 kings, the pressure of 3 kings is still much less. As long as London can hold on until the main force rushes back, the original battle plan can still be carried out smoothly. When Han Dong sensed the large-scale space jump in Markham City at the first moment, he was so anxious that he tore off his thumbnail. Now, the core area of Herbal and Company had been integrated with the train. Except for Demps, who could not continue to participate in the battle, everyone boarded the train. Before leaving, Han Dong also handed over all related matters to Demps. The significance of this secret project was second only to the ongoing World War. Miss Helen left Demps an origin rot tan and left with tears in her eyes. During the first train run, Goldie was fully focused on the secret compartment that contained Emperor Slayer. After confirming that the compartment's coefficient was completely stable, the internal energy of the compartment was activated according to plan. The compartment was detached from the track and headed in the completely opposite direction. Eventually, it would leave the track and head toward the star. The compartment is detached. The boost energy supply is normal. It is moving along the expected path. Phew! Han Dong could finally put down the huge rock that was pressing on his heart. The Emperor Slayer's excessive silence was too strange. Han Dong suspected that the Emperor Slayer was secretly accumulating energy, waiting for a critical moment to break through the secret compartment. We're finally free. No matter what, the Emperor Slayer is still limited. I hope it can be delayed until the end of the battle. Grimm rubbed his palms together as he waited for the train to arrive. Nicholas, why do I feel that the train is running much slower than the last time we took it? This is different. This train is the core of the company. Naturally, it will run much slower. It has been ensured that it is stable, but it won't take long. Han Dong did not say it explicitly. In fact, he estimated that the train would slow down. The reason was simple. Han Dong did not want to enter the battlefield immediately because they did not have any king-level combat power. If they were exposed in advance, they might be destroyed in an instant. They had to wait for Malone and Death to rush back, an hour before the expected outbreak of war, in a strong magnetic field area where London was. Under the ravaging of the magnetic field storm all day long, the Pyrolite Paradise, which had the highest environmental turbulence coefficient in Pandora, suddenly stabilized at this time. The ravaging magnetic field storm slowly subsided. The metal sand particles that had been swept up in space all year round fell down, forming an endless metal desert. The ratio of metal to stone sand was about 7:3. Only 5 distant stars hung in the sky, scorching this desert. London, which did not have the protection of the title deed, was located in the center in the form of a lone city. The residents of London did not even have time to breathe. Sizzle. A space storm suddenly broke out at a distance of thousands of meters, and a super-large transmission rift tore open in the air. Buzz. Markham City appeared in the form of a cuboid metallic structure. The city maintained its packaged state, suspended in the air, and had no intention of unfolding the city. Suddenly, metal ripples spread out on one side, and the body of the positron cannon protruded from the liquid metal surface. After 3 days of cooling, the cannon was ready to fire. There was no obstacle at close range. Buzz! The highly compressed positron beam shot straight at the city gate. If it hit, not only would the city gate be torn open, but the entire city would probably collapse. Chapter 1378. It was a hyperspace restraining device used to restrict King's secret room carriage. High-density rhenium gold filled the generator room, and 8 magnetic field components designed by the handsome Jack surrounded Emperor Slayer, restricting him to the center of the secret room. At this moment, Emperor Slayer had already inserted his true lumen back into his neck. He floated in the air with his legs crossed. His body had gradually adapted to the frequency of the magnetic field, but it was still very difficult to break free. The secret room itself did not have any loopholes to exploit. His heart was as still as water. In the few days that Emperor Slayer had been imprisoned, he had already eliminated all his anger, impatience, and other emotions and returned to his original state of mind. He had also thrown the unfinished mission and the upcoming war to the back of his mind. He focused on himself and carried out a deep self-reflection. Just now, when the carriage was separated from the train, Emperor Slayer felt a slight energy fluctuation due to the switching of the power supply. Why would a device that had never fluctuated in stability suddenly produce such a large energy fluctuation? There must have been a change in the outside world. This was the opportunity that Emperor Slayer had been waiting for. Draw the sword. He opened up his domain and stared at the powerful restrictive force as he slowly pulled the sword out of his neck. Traces of strange sin power were seeping out from different parts of his body. The strange bandages used to cover his body also slowly came off. Emperor Slayer, who had finished drawing his sword, did not immediately attack. Instead, he was preparing something. A move that he had not used before was about to be used. After all, a normal attack was enough to kill Han Dong and the others. There was no need to use this kind of move, which required time to prepare and did not necessarily have a high hit rate on low-level life forms. A terrifying scene occurred. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. The cervical vertebrae in the neck extended upward, and the bone cells underwent rapid differentiation and division, constructing an exquisite skull. With the skull as the frame, thin threads began to weave the flesh and tissues of the face like blood vessels. The bandages covered the surface of the body like skin. A complete head formed on Emperor Slayer's head. Soft black hair fell to the side of the ears. Even though the entire body was covered in bandages, one could vaguely imagine the extraordinary appearance of the past through the contours of the face and black hair. Head. This was the first time Emperor Slayer had revealed her head, and a never-before-seen artistic conception covered the blade. Emperor Slayer had originally planned to use this trump card against enemy kings. He had never thought that he would use it here. Furthermore, sacrificing the head also meant that Emperor Slayer would have to face the deepest sin in his heart. If his state of mind was not up to par, he would suffer from chi deviation. Once he succeeded, his state of mind would rise to an unprecedented height. Chop! At this moment, the feeling of wielding the saber was completely different from before. The restrictions and restraints became like a few ordinary and unobstructed threads, no longer restricting Emperor Slayer. 1. The secret chamber was cut horizontally. The carriage carrying the secret chamber was moving quickly on the track leading to the edge of the planet. There were no enemies around. The Emperor Slayer turned into a sinful shadow and disappeared from the carriage. She was not in a hurry to rush to the battlefield. Instead, he found a hidden underground cave and placed a true path of flowing light between his palms, beginning to nurture it. While he was imprisoned in the secret room, the energy in Emperor Slayer's body was slowly being depleted. Her last move, forcefully cutting open the secret room, had exhausted almost all of her strength. This was also the fundamental reason why she had to choose a special time to break open the secret room. Energy depleted. Emperor Slayer's comprehensive attributes would be weakened by more than 80%. If he was besieged by multiple mythical bodies, he might be in danger. After recovering for a while, Emperor Slayer immediately found the nearest world network interface and contacted the mother body. "Give me half an hour. I will rush back to the battlefield in time." "Well, everything is going according to plan. Emperor Slayer, your return will allow our victory rate to exceed 70%. The mother body did not ask what had happened during this period of time. As long as Emperor Slayer could return to the battlefield in time, nothing mattered. Emperor Slayer herself had also gained enlightenment due to this failure, and the state of slaying had become even more superior than before. The west gate of London was a few thousand meters away. The cuboid structure of Markham City, which was floating in mid-air, had taken the initiative to expose the barrel structure of the positron cannon. A type of annihilating positron energy had completed the compression and acceleration between the barrels. Whoosh! The beam that symbolized annihilation shot straight at London. The mother body had simulated the effect of London's destruction in advance. Who knew? Just as the positron beam shot out, the gates of London opened inwards at the same time, ready to receive the bombardment. An ancient and esoteric device was set up inside the city gates. It was built with pieces of floating stone tablets engraved with void characters as its outer frame. The center was a mirror structure in the form of a liquid. It was the void prism that was temporarily modified by the plane migration device. The members of the secret cult of the Void under the Second Origin, Pop Minda, were surrounding the base of the prism's stone platform, using a secret ritual to precisely control the prism. Not only could this device change the trajectory of matter, but it could even refract at a precise angle. If used properly, they might be able to directly shoot down the enemy's main city. What would happen next would be a direct clash between advanced technology and hybrid demon secret techniques. The moment the positron beam collided with the void prism, a total of 6 instructors were annihilated on the spot due to the influence of the connection. Of course, Pop had already considered this and immediately sent backup personnel forward to replace them. I didn't expect the bombardment to be even more powerful this time. It might be a little difficult to accurately refract the beam. It'll be fine as long as we can touch it. We must make the enemy think that we can't use this terrifying weapon. As the positron beam completely entered the prism, Pop personally descended and used the astral brain to control the thoughts of all the members of the secret cult, personally controlling the refraction direction. Buzz! A beam of the same power shot out from the mirror in reverse, and it could probably hit the upper right corner of the enemy's main city. Just as it was about to hit, Markham City suddenly released an extremely powerful magnetic field pulse, and it changed the trajectory of the positron beam, forcing it to shoot into the deep space of the universe. The first exchange between the two sides ended in this form of fireworks. The most shocked was the mother. She didn't expect the enemy to have such a method. The positron cannon can ignore the obstruction of space. I didn't expect the enemy to be proficient in such a profound space technique and to create a device that can perfectly deal with the positron cannon in such a short time. What a pity! Otherwise, this cannon would be enough to destroy London. From the beginning, we didn't intend to use technology to determine the winner. I'll go first. Blacksmith, come with me. Let's see what the enemy's king is capable of. Suddenly, an indescribable heavy pressure spread out in this area. The residents of London who weren't at the level of mythical entity began to tremble, and their thoughts froze. Many residents even knelt on the ground. This kind of pressure didn't only affect the body, but also the soul and consciousness. The enslaved, mad dragon also let out a wail at this moment, lowering its head as if it was afraid of something. It covered the sky. The shadow replaced the former sun, and the city of London returned to darkness. However, the residents of the city didn't feel relief at all after getting rid of the scorching sun. Instead, there was extreme fear in their eyes in the sky. With a body length of tens of thousands of meters, or even hundreds of thousands of meters, and a perfect combination of black dragon scales and metal armor, A colossus beyond the knowledge of most residents was overlooking the tiny city of London. Teplonadrilis, father of the Black Dragon. Chapter 1379. Perception. Any individual with the characteristic of leveling up would more or less increase their perception during the leveling up period. For a king who had merged with the truth and formed a world of his own, his perception could often cover a part of the world and easily obtain the information he wanted. Toplo, the father of the Black Dragon, had a pair of dragon eyes that could see the truth. When he looked down at the earth with his huge body, he could see all the surface information of the world. He could see all the life forms suppressed by the dragon bloodline. When he looked down at London, a trace of doubt flashed in his dragon eyes. Samir has been completely devoured by madness. What a pity. Another part of the bloodline of the mountain dragon will be lost. I didn't expect that there were several humans in this city with dragon bloodline. Most of them have a lot of impurities, but a small part of them have extremely pure bloodline. It's incredible. If the war can end smoothly, I'll try to bring them back as prisoners of war for research. Speaking of which, why did I only capture 2 kings? One of them only has the strength and doesn't have the status of a king. In addition, there are several mythical bodies in the city that are infinitely close to the king level. It's strange. According to the rules of balance, the number of kings should be equal, right? Blacksmith, how's your observation on this side? Blacksmith 3, Phone B, Crimen, Titan, was standing upright on the dragon's spine. His body was covered with iron rings at equal intervals. His face was similar to Count's, and his mouth and nose were covered by a mask. Blacksmith's perception was not through his facial features, but through his sense of touch. The iron rings worn all over his body could spread his sense of touch without loss. It could even spread his perception through the iron in the environment without limit, similar to mesh. At present, Blacksmith used the iron scales on the Black Dragon's body to easily radiate his sense of touch to the entire city of London. The perception information he received was the same as the Black Dragon. Although there were many mythical bodies in London, there were only 2 who had reached the level of king. The overall strength was even less than theirs, maybe even half of theirs. As Blacksmith and the Black Dragon checked the information, they immediately came to a conclusion. Half of the enemy's forces are active outside the city. What are these hybrid demons thinking? Not all of them are in the city at this time. Did they find out the original location of Maximus City and sent half of their forces to secretly attack it? Haha, this is getting interesting. Or had they already given up on this battle and were prepared to sacrifice half of their forces to fight to the death here, to buy enough time for the other half to find space equipment in other parts of the planet to escape from the world? They actually gave us such a great opportunity. Hurry up and inform the mother so that we can wipe them out in one fell swoop. It's too easy. I thought it would be troublesome at first. The blacksmith confidently gave his opinion. The hybrid demons will never give up on the battle. It's very likely to be the first point you mentioned. They arranged half of their forces to try to secretly attack the original site of Markmees. Unfortunately, I can combine with the technology of the mother to achieve a mobile city. I've already used your scales to scan the surrounding 50 kilometers. I didn't find any hybrid demons hiding under the sand. Now is indeed the best time to attack. Since they only have 2 kings in the city, there's no need to wait for them to kill the emperor. Even though the situation in front of him seemed to be extremely advantageous, the blacksmith still had a serious expression on his face. In his opinion, even if there was a gap in the hybrid demon army, they still had to take every step carefully. Using the communication between the metals, the blacksmith informed the mother of the information. Markme City, which was still floating in the air, shot out 12 crystal pillars that were about 100 meters tall from the metal surface. They were similar to the dial of a clock and landed on the outskirts of London. Space crystal. This was a good item that the blacksmith brought from the Saint-level world. It was a portable space item that could carry a large number of life forms. The life forms in Markme City only needed to walk through the teleportation door marked 0112, and they would be accurately teleported to the location of the corresponding space crystal. The crystal resonated, and the words from the saint-level world appeared on the surface. The crystal was activated. Light pillars of individual size continuously descended around the crystal. Giant dragons, sinful spirits, blacksmiths, and artificial intelligence life forms. There was an extremely strong aura around each crystal, and there was at least one mythical body guarding it. One of them was the sinful spirit that Han Dong and the others had met in the hybrid demon world, Thousand Sins. Night Monarch. In the blink of an eye, the forces of the four worlds had completely surrounded London. Mark Me City was equipped with a self-defense system, so there was no need to leave any forces inside. It only needed a small portion of the mother CPU to be used for intelligent calculations. The life forms from the four worlds had perfectly integrated some of the characteristics of the other worlds after several months of deep interaction. For example, the skeletal body of a sinful spirit had been purified and modified by a blacksmith. Its bones had become stronger and more efficient in transporting energy. Its body was also equipped with an all-metal intelligent armor. However, there was one thing that was very strange. Looking at the enemy forces that had descended on the outskirts of London, none of them had reached the level of a king. The king that was exposed now was still the black dragon that covered the sky and the blacksmith on the dragon's back. London, Big Ben, as the headquarters of the Church of Evernight. This was also an extremely important command tower during the battle. After the expeditionary army moved into London, the great demon captain had contributed the Eye of Expedition that was used to contact the Holy City and detect long-distance intelligence during the march. It was perfectly combined with the detection device inside Big Ben. When a magnetic storm had completely stopped, it could accurately capture the details of the situation within 50 kilometers of London. The large-scale enemy's information had all been captured by the Eye of Expedition. Then, through the dark message, it was known to the garrison troops in different areas, and the fastest deployment of troops was carried out. However, there was one thing that made everyone very puzzled. The information that Han Dong brought back only said that one king was trapped. Why didn't the other one appear? Could it be that he is hiding in the Metal Main City and preparing for the next bombardment? It's very strange. There is no longer any protective barrier in London. Based on their perception, they should be able to accurately capture our specific situation. They should be very clear that we are currently lacking in military strength and only have two kings. Logically speaking, they should immediately mobilize all their forces to launch a destructive attack on us. The great demon captain's eyes were closed at this moment. He was using a special method to connect with the Eye of Expedition. He carefully observed the army that was besieging the city. He could vaguely see something and said in a low voice, "You're right. The enemy will definitely press on with all their forces and try to flatten London in one fell swoop. Their bombardment has been successfully blocked by us, and the energy required to accumulate such a powerful bombardment is not something that can be achieved in a short period of time. The third king might have used a special method that we have never seen before to blend into the army that is besieging the city, or he might be hiding in a location that we don't know about." At this moment, an even stronger pressure than before descended from the sky. Let me test this group of hybrid demons first. Black shadows, lava, and at the same time, an indescribable energy was contained. A black dragon claw that was like a demonic mountain descended vertically. It wasn't just a matter of the heavy pressure. There was a type of dragon energy that symbolized destruction flowing between the dragon scales, and it worked together with the blacksmith's destruction armor. During the suppression, there was also an extremely destructive destruction impact. At the same time, the Thames River in London began to become restless. Chapter 1380. The black dragon claw descending from the sky was like a demonic mountain flowing with hot lava. The first thing the dragon claw would destroy was not the city of London, but the mythical celestial body that was suspended in mid-air as a temporary satellite. It belonged to the 10th Prime, Vader cousins. Vader and a large group of hybrid demons from the outer sky were living in the celestial body, secretly carrying out a plan. In the face of the terrifying dragon claw that was about to come, they could barely block it by sacrificing all the energy of the celestial body and activating the defensive fortifications. Therefore, it would consume a large amount of energy and force the hybrid demon industry inside the celestial body to stop operating. Vader, hurry up and make a decision. It'll be too late if you delay. The opponent is a king with destructive abilities. The voice of the mythical celestial body echoed in the ears of the red-haired youth, and the mini celestial body in his chest was spinning rapidly. We are an indispensable part of the battle plan. Wait a little longer. Vader stared at the dragon claw that was constantly descending, resisting all the pressure. What he saw was a long-term battle plan, and he did not order the activation of the celestial body's defensive barrier. The forces under his command were also safe and unafraid of death as they silently watched the descending dragon claw. At the critical moment, London Thames River. The originally clear river water was completely dyed black in an instant, and it was even bubbling like boiling water. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One after another, swollen tentacles with a diameter of more than 10 meters grew wildly from the surface of the lake. The surface of the black, oily tentacles was faintly imprinted with dark characters that symbolized some ancient sacrifice before the mythical celestial body was about to be destroyed. A total of more than 80 thick, dark tentacles wrapped around the dragon claw. Buzz! For a moment, a circle of black ripples visible to the naked eye spread out in the air, and the dragon claw was forcibly stopped. Sizzle! At the same time, the contact between the two caused a large amount of steam to rise. The moment the 7 black tentacles came into contact with the dragon claw, more than half of them evaporated, or rather, they were annihilated by the stimulation of destructive energy. Terrifying lava with a temperature of more than 10,000 degrees flowed from the severed tentacles. However, the black dragon was not feeling well either. The dragon scales that had been personally strengthened by Blacksmith III were still forcibly torn off by the tentacles. The pain was like tearing off a fingernail. Most importantly, the maggot-like dark tentacles would drill further into the flesh, wantonly releasing extremely destructive and corrosive dark mysterious energy in the claw. The pain was mixed with a numbing sensation that made the black dragon elder shudder. This strange feeling that he had never experienced before made him decisively give up on this attack. Whoosh! He tore apart 2 more tentacles and forcefully retracted his dragon claws. The scene before him made Black Dragon sweat profusely. Just now, because the dragon claw was intertwined with a large number of tentacles, he could not see it clearly. When the dragon claw retracted in front of his eyes, he could directly see that the part where the dragon scales were removed had dozens of large and small holes drilled out. A foul, black, and viscous liquid kept flowing out of the wounds. There were even a few broken tentacles stuck in it. This is the characteristic of the hybrid demons. If it weren't for the fact that I have the dragon vein origin flowing in my body, I'm afraid that this kind of internal corrosion wouldn't be able to be suppressed and would spread to other areas in a short period of time. As expected of a creature from World S01 that was not under the control of the Black Tower. Blacksmith, help me. Following the Black Dragon's call, a steady figure flashed and appeared where the dragon claw was. He moved his fingers, and the tentacle stuck in his wound instantly shattered. A hammer appeared in the blacksmith's hand, and after a casual knock on the wound, brand new and stronger black iron dragon scales covered the wound in all directions. Blacksmith, this living planet above London seems to have more than just a detection function. Let's work together to destroy it. It's indeed very suspicious. Black Dragon Teplo was slightly afraid of the swaying dark tentacles below. He no longer used his claws to attack. and instead turned his dragon head to face London directly below. Dragon Descendant World, once the most awe-inspiring and largest volcano in the world, the Eye of Destruction. More than 2,000 years ago, it was forcibly swallowed by a mythical black dragon and fused into a part of its body. It also took this opportunity to raise the destruction attribute inside the dragon's body to the next level, reaching the apex and touching the barrier of the king level. In the center of Teplo's dragon belly continent sat this terrifying volcano. Currently, under the stimulation of Teplo, it was in a state of eruption, linking together with all the volcanoes in the dragon belly continent to erupt on a super scale. A destructive dragon breath that was enough to destroy a medium-sized world was constantly accumulating. At the same time as feeling this terrifying energy, the tentacles rising from the Thames began to hover and condense in the air, combining into a mass of black flesh. Whoosh! A terrifying sharp claw crawled out from the mass of flesh. A humanoid figure that looked like a mother crawled out from the mass of flesh. Its face had no facial structure, but it was covered with dense, tiny tentacles. Its slender right arm was stretched out in front of it. The tentacles that drilled out of the arm formed ancient characters, and at the same time, black spots of light appeared in the palm of its hand. Such a small arm against a giant dragon head that was comparable to the size of London. Die, worm. Destroy the world. A world dragon breath surrounded by crimson lightning, super hot lava, and a destructive beam of light spewed out. Corresponding, dark particles combined into a black ball of light and shot out a tiny black beam of light. The visual effects and coverage of the two energies were not on the same level. However, when the two collided, the black beam of light spread out like a disk at the point of impact, and its width was exactly the same as the dragon breath. For a moment, the impact between the two was actually on par. Just as Black Dragon Teplo continued to breathe out in shock, a relatively low-key figure jumped down from his body. The hammer in his hand was aimed at the mythical celestial body below. Blacksmith Fong B. Kryman III was very confident that he could kill this celestial body in one hit if the other party was unprepared. However, when the distance was less than 100 meters, the blacksmith's eyes suddenly changed, and he quickly put the hammer back into his body while changing the trajectory of his fall. Clang! With the trembling of the iron rings all over his body, he landed steadily in another area of the celestial body. An uninvited guest was standing where he was originally going to land. White gelatinous skin without a mouth structure. A pair of deep eyes were staring at the blacksmith, and his aura was even slightly superior. The newcomer was the great demon captain. The blacksmith had already observed the external information of the newcomer through metal detection. An individual who doesn't have the qualification for the throne, but has a king-level force. Are you human? The great demon captain didn't answer. Instead, he turned into a white shadow and instantly flashed in front of the blacksmith. This process didn't even feel like there was any time interval. Hyperspace movement. So fast. The blacksmith was so shocked that he didn't even have time to spread out his domain. The white palm had already clasped his head. Wisps of white energy were gathering in the palm. Boom! Boom! A white flash comparable to a nuclear explosion bloomed on the surface of the celestial body, and a mythical celestial body was deflected to a certain extent. The blacksmith, with white smoke all over his body, flew out of the explosion smoke and hit the city building below at supersonic speed. Boom! When he landed, he smashed open a terrifying deep pit about 100 meters wide. However, the blacksmith maintained a posture of tilting his head back and body backward, standing steadily in the big pit. Although his head was still emitting white smoke, his essence wasn't damaged. You're really strong. It's indeed very difficult to defeat you in a direct confrontation. However, the two of you, the remaining kings of London, have appeared to deal with me and the Black Dragon. How do you solve the siege situation? As soon as he finished speaking, a loud noise suddenly came from the north wall of London. The wall collapsed. In just 10 minutes, one of the walls had been breached. Chapter 1381. North City Wall. It was originally guarded by the Church of Everight's branch manager, Elambeth. The first wave of enemy troops didn't include mythical bodies. Elambeth was full of confidence. Using the geographical advantage provided by the city wall, he united all the strength of the church and used black magic to bombard the troops attacking from outside the city. It was very effective at first, but soon he noticed something amiss. There was a strange mechanical body that took all the magic damage. No matter what kind of attack it was, even when an instructor sacrificed himself to grow a huge tentacle from his abdomen to attack it, it remained unmoved. It went straight to the bottom of the city wall. The next second, there was a huge explosion that shocked the entire city. The North City gate that could withstand the impact of a mythical was blown to pieces, and a 100-meter-tall city wall structure collapsed. In the ruins filled with smoke, Elambeth, who was still in shock, wanted to inform headquarters of the intelligence. The next second, his head and body were completely annihilated, leaving only 2 legs twitching on the ground before finally turning into a pool of black water. Church of Evernight. Headquarters. When Father Lessos observed the situation in the north through the eye of London, he was affected by a magnetic field that prevented him from seeing the exact situation. The war had just begun. Apart from the king-level battle that erupted in the sky, the siege had just launched its first wave of attacks. The enemy's mythical body stationed in the space crystal had yet to take action. Lessos didn't understand why the North Gate had been breached. Could it be that the great demon's speculation was correct? There's a king acting in secret through a disguise technique that we can't identify? That's the only possibility. Otherwise, the city gate wouldn't have been breached in just a few minutes. We have to discover and understand this king's abilities. Otherwise, it's almost impossible for us to hold out in a conservative state until reinforcements arrive. Taking the next step ahead of time might cause us to lose everything. Someone has to fill in the gaps here. The priest, who had always been calm, changed the umbrella in his hand into a walking stick and prepared to personally investigate the situation. Suddenly, a distorted vortex that didn't belong to the hybrid demon world appeared in the darkness. A man wearing a linen hood, and all his joints were twisted. The tattered gloves on his hands were very conspicuous. This person was the Mantis demon who had completed the ascension with Han Dong and the others in the previous London game. He had touched the miracle of the whirlpool and successfully entered the mythical body. He was the strongest warrior under Father Lessos. Her real name had been discarded, and she was given the code name. He was extremely loyal to the hybrid demons, or more accurately, he was absolutely loyal to the priest. He was once the champion of London's kickboxing. Later, he became a homicidal maniac due to his thirst for blood. In the end, he was redeemed in front of the priest. Even if the whirlpool attribute of the saint-level world completely changed his nature as a hybrid demon, his heart still belonged here. The brainwashing effect of the miracle had no effect on his loyalty. This absolute loyalty was also one of the main reasons why the saint-ranked world suffered such a crushing defeat. He thought that he could turn the hybrid demons into his own, but who would have thought that he would just be giving them a huge gift? Father, let me investigate this matter. Even if I die, I will bring back valuable information. You are the key to this battle. Please stay here. The priest nodded in affirmation. His tongue carried a special black candle and delivered it to Big Z. Lighting the candle at a critical moment might save your life. Thank you, Father. The moment he took the candle, whoosh, leaving only a spiral footprint on the ground, Big Z rushed to the North City gate as fast as he could. With the help of the mythical structure realized by the whirlpool god, the quality was not low at all. The priest even had the idea of cultivating Big Z into the leader of a special force to further expand the scale of power in London. Domain expansion, realm of reincarnation. In the area where Big Z set foot, all the surrounding matter, even the most basic air, would be in a distorted state. It was even beyond the distortion of the conventional material plane. It could touch the flow of matter and carry out a certain degree of distortion on time. Its strength was not weak at all. An afterimage flashed. Big Z had already appeared in the ruins, full of broken pieces of the city wall. There were no living creatures as far as his eyes could see. He did not even see many physical bodies. Most of them were some personal belongings that had fallen inside. Their bodies seemed to have evaporated. Big Z's current vision was a little similar to Han Dong's magic eye. The spiral effect brought by the whirlpool could strengthen the vision of focusing on a certain point to the extreme. The place where his eyes locked on, there was a flash of metallic luster. Whoosh! The extremely distorted soles of his feet made a super fast turn. His agile steps allowed him to instantly approach the object observed by his eyes. What is this? Standing in front of him was a broken mechanical body. All kinds of cables were dragged on the ground. Even the right arm was almost detached from the body, hanging in the air by a cable. Drip, 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 similar to human blood. Engine oil was constantly overflowing from the broken mechanical body. The metal parts embedded in the body were slowly falling off. Even so, it was still holding a mantis head that had just been plucked out in its hand and easily crushed it. At first glance, the broken state of the mechanical life seemed to be caused by a great battle. Upon closer inspection, one would find that the mechanical life itself was disintegrating. Even some parts that seemed to be intact would disintegrate on their own, and the metal pipes that were still connected would automatically break off. It was more like a kind of overload performance. It felt Big Z's arrival. Click, click, click. The mechanical life had already turned its broken head 180 degrees in an extremely exaggerated manner. Engine oil kept flowing out from the broken eye holes, and there were a few wires with electric arcs jumping in its mouth. An intermittent electromagnetic sound came out from his mouth. Saint level? No. Your body is a mixture of mantis and saint level attributes. How strange. Your existence may mislead our soldiers, so you must be eliminated. The mechanical life that looked like it had problems, even walking, spat out extremely terrifying laser beams from its mouth. Everything in its path was annihilated. Big Z's domain was completely ineffective. He could only rely on his body to forcefully dodge. He couldn't completely avoid it. Half of his arm was exposed to the beam and was instantly annihilated. King level. And it's very strong. The burlap bag on Big Z's head was twisted into a ball. He wanted to retreat at full speed and report to the priest at the same time. Buzz. An invisible domain had already spread over. The surrounding scene did not change at all. In his brain, a prohibition sign similar to a system program, ban, appeared in his consciousness. It was like a prohibition program was forcibly implanted in Big Z's brain, prohibiting him from doing anything related to escape or transmitting information. Whether it was directly or indirectly related, it would be prohibited. What ability is this? The mechanical life had already raised its right arm. A mass of annihilation energy was accumulated in its palm. It was completely locked on, and there was no way to dodge. At the moment of life and death, Big Z's loyalty far exceeded his fear of death. Even if he was going to die here, he would still cause damage to the other party. Time distortion. Since the domain was ineffective against machines, it used the domain on itself. It provided an acceleration effect on the time that distorted itself. A rapidly twisting spiral palm hit the surface of the mechanical life before the energy shot out. Clang, clang. Mechanical fragments flew everywhere. The annihilation energy that was about to shoot out from the palm stopped because of the collapse of the mechanical life. Staring at the flowing oil and completely broken mechanical debris on the ground, Big Z could not understand what was going on for a moment. He definitely thought that his attack had killed the target. It was that the attack just now had exceeded the limit of what the machine could withstand. In his shock, he hurriedly sent the information back to Father Lesos. However, not long after, An annihilation explosion similar to the one at the north gate occurred in the southwest side of the city wall. The city wall was destroyed again. A similar invasion occurred again. The mechanical life disintegrated due to overload. It looks very weak, but it has king-level strength. Could it be? A terrifying conclusion appeared in Big Z's mind. Father Lessos also came to the same conclusion. This is troublesome. Chapter 1382. When Big Z rushed back to the headquarters, he still had lingering fears. Although he had stepped into the mythical stage, and his quality was not bad, he was only at the early stage of the mythical stage. He was far from Father Lessos. It was already very good to be able to survive in such a situation. Whoosh! The priest pulled out the antennae inserted into the back of Big Z's head. Through the clear memory sharing, he had obtained a definite conclusion and dug out the secret of the enemy's third king. However, even if such a secret was exposed, it would be difficult for London to deal with it in its current state. It was an ability that was close to cheating. Looking at the entire hybrid demon circle, there might be similar ones, but it was impossible to find one that was completely the same. It was directly related to the other party's characteristics. There is actually such a troublesome existence. It can directly attach itself to the body of the air without reducing its level. Although it will make the body of the air far exceed the limit of its load and completely disintegrate and die after a period of time. The number of mechanical airs is in the tens of thousands, and it is still increasing. There are new mechanical life forms descending near the teleportation crystal every moment. It is as if there is a set of specialized mechanical production lines in Markmas City. Consciousness descending? Big Z asked. The principle is different. This should be a unique system of this kind of mechanical life form. This way, we can't prevent it no matter what. The only way to deal with it is to find the king's body and interfere. The king's body is most likely hidden in their main city, Markmas. We don't have the strength to attack it at all. There's only one way. To reduce unnecessary casualties. Father Lessos made a decisive decision. Through the churches that were scattered in different neighborhoods and the important teachers who were connected to their consciousnesses, he conveyed an important order. Abandon the city wall defense line and enter the next stage in advance. Sir Father, if we continue to defend, we will only be annihilated by the king one by one. The important city wall structure will also be completely destroyed. Now, we can only hope that the troops out will hurry back and make up for the time difference. Z, who was wearing a linen hood, gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "Will the reinforcements really help? Are reinforcements really useful? The kings in this group of humans only have the strength close to the king, but they don't have the throne themselves. Every single one of these otherworld kings had the support of the throne, and they were definitely the best of the best that have been carefully selected. Can we really fight them? Do your own thing, Z. The humans who came to London this time are very strong. You just haven't seen them yet." "Yes." Seeing that the priest's expression had turned sour, Z did not say anything else and immediately headed to the nearest street to prepare for the next phase of the battle. At 1,000 meters in the air, the dark tentacles were intertwining with the giant dragon. The unbridled dark energy almost dyed the sky black. The dragon's breath that had been scattered by the darkness turned into dark rocks that fell onto the streets one after another. On the other side, Blacksmith III, who was struck down by the great demon captain, only leaned back and smoke came out of his head. He was completely fine. It could be seen that his defense was extremely outstanding. Compared to the Black Dragon, the blacksmith, who had been defeated before, was very cautious when dealing with the hybrid demons. He wasn't angry at being hit by the great demon captain at all. Instead, he used the large, open pit beneath him to forge with the blacksmith hammer in his hand. Ding! The great demon only heard the sound of metal being forged once. On the surface of the 100-meter-wide pit, a dome-shaped metal chamber was instantly built, completely isolated from the outside world. The blacksmith himself was completely hidden inside. It was entirely possible that the blacksmith was hiding in the secret chamber and using his hammer to destroy the foundations of London. This forced the great demon to enter the secret room. Boom! The moment he entered, the iron door closed. The blacksmith's domain was combined with the dome-shaped secret chamber, creating an absolutely enclosed steel space. The blacksmith's idea was very simple. Since there were only two kings left in London, he and the Black Dragon only needed to hold back one each. The rest of the battle would be left to the Mother. With the Mother's characteristics and double the number of troops, they would definitely be able to flatten London in a short time. However, the blacksmith's conservative approach made the great demon reveal a rare smile. It must be known that the great demon captain always gave people the impression of being calm, serious, and even expressionless. The current situation was exactly what the great demon wanted. He was originally considering how to prevent the battle between the kings from affecting the other areas of London. Now, the blacksmith had saved him this trouble. As the white gelatinous face tore open into a strange mouth, the great demon captain's body began to change. Exaggerated hyperplastic tissue grew out of his back. An aura that didn't belong to humans was crazily overflowing. The battle between the kings wouldn't affect the overall situation for the time being. Father Leseth's order was instantly transmitted to the ears of every resident of London. For a time, a large number of black shadows moved regularly in the streets. They lit the street lamps on the side of the street or placed the black candles they carried with them in different areas of the street. With the sun being covered by the darkness released by the dragon and the Mother, they recreated the dark environment of London. Rumble. When the soldiers on the city wall withdrew, they also opened the city gate. The battlefield immediately underwent a 180-degree change. Even the invaders stopped moving forward and were very confused about the situation in front of them. In less than a minute, the Mother had completed the calculation and analysis of the current situation. The other side is just shrinking the defense line. All troops enter the city. Don't let go of any corner. Completely eliminate the hybrid demons hiding in the city. Once there's any discomfort on the consciousness level, immediately inject a nerve suppressant into your heart. It can effectively suppress the influence of the pollution on your mind. Because the hybrid demons abandoned the city wall defense line, the morale of the creatures from the four worlds was greatly boosted. A full-scale invasion. The mechanical life that was completely controlled by the Mother was also mixed in with one of the troops. Facing the dark street full of candles in front of them, they each took out their own means of illumination. Among them, the most effective were the sinful spirits hidden in cloaks. Most of them were mainly in the form of bones. They carried bone lanterns burning with red flames to resist the erosion of the darkness by burning their sins. In the form of small teams, they carefully searched every corner of the street and every room in the building. Some teams successfully found the hybrid demons hiding in the darkness and successfully killed them. In addition, some teams instantly disappeared because they mistakenly entered the strange area. The strangest of them all was London's sewer. There was an indescribable strangeness below. It was dirty. Just approaching the sewer would be contaminated with a gray, sticky substance. It made the whole body uncomfortable and gave rise to an urgent desire to clean the body. Once any team went to the sewer, they would disappear completely within half a minute. However, the strangeness of the sewer did not affect the situation on the road. At the beginning of entering the city, the Mother temporarily issued an order to forbid the search of the sewer. When the exploration reached a certain limit, she would personally go down to investigate. After a while, many invasion teams passed through the invisible barrier and came to a clean neighborhood in the East City District without any pollution. There was even the aura of living people who had lived there. However, these living people seemed to have left early. There was no one there. They even bumped into a building that shouldn't exist in a hybrid demon city. It was a huge sanctuary that was similar to a cathedral. Its entire body was surging with a holy light, and every piece of colored glass was emitting a holy light. One of the craftsmen who worshipped the light was even in awe of such a sanctuary. However, the reverence immediately turned into killing intent. Many teams, including a nearby mythical entity, stepped into this strange sanctuary from the main door. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.